Hello. Welcome to the humanity where we do the things with the stuff for the people. I am Matt.
And I'm Tommy. And tonight, thank you for joining us as we celebrate our Atheversary. Because that's the thing. Um, but you didn't know you were coming to a celebration tonight. I mean, unless you maybe read the show description before you clicked on it, then maybe. I don't know. How did I describe this? Probably, yeah, I think I mentioned that. Cool. All right. So, yeah, that's a thing. Um, also, tonight, I am just getting over a cold.
Oh,
So,
fun.
so apologies for noises such as that, which shall be forthcoming. Yeah, got my, and also I know we're like 4 weeks into it now, but happy October, everybody! My favorite month of the year because fall is the best, and October is probably the falliest of the fall months, perhaps. So, yeah, got my little festive holiday gourd action going
Yeah.
on. Yeah, daughter
your-
went to a pumpkin patch over the weekend and brought those back. So
Got your tumorous gourd and your tiny pumpkin.
yes,
Why do they
I
do
relate
that?
to
Like,
your
why is
gourd.
that normal for certain gourds?
I'm not sure. Maybe they need immunotherapy. Um, let's see. Also excited because I recently got myself some new band T-shirts. I was kind of particularly excited about this one. One is for a band Belphegor that I've been a fan of for a long time. Just never got any of their merch for whatever reason. Okay, partially because with a lot of the bands I'm really into, like finding their T-shirts online is like really difficult, or at least like they'll have like their own site, but the selection is usually pretty limited. It's usually just their like latest stuff. And like the stuff around their most recent album, like it was all right. I mean, the album was good, but you know, like as far as like the t-shirt designs and stuff, I wasn't as big a fan of. So I basically had to go to the website T Public, where it's like they just do like custom printing, but
Mhm.
I guess they're like have licenses or whatever to print this stuff. But I was kind of amused because it's probably not showing up on here, but like the t-shirt that they printed it on, like I ordered like a like higher quality t-shirt or whatever, but it's like one of those like super soft cotton, and I don't know if you can tell, it's like it's
Oh,
more
yeah.
of like a charcoal heather
Uh-huh.
like texture to it. And
Is it
I'm
one of
like,
those tri-blend where it's like cotton polyester and rayon or something?
yeah, probably something like that. So not typically what you get, like, you know, a black and death metal band t-shirt
Sure.
on, you know,
Yeah.
they don't usually have that at their merch booth when they're on tour. But so I was like, it's such a nice t-shirt, but then it's got this going on it, which amuses me. So,
What's on there? Do I see lions or horses or?
yeah, those are lions. It says Blackest Sabbath, 1997. So, you know,
I
Baphomet
really, I
there.
really like the graphics from the '90s metal
Mm,
bands
mm.
because they're all like
Yeah.
gritty, not grungy, gritty, like gritty and like a lot of like '70s horror movie kind of poster things going on.
Hmm.
I dig it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also just with extreme metal, I love the logos because it seems to be like the better the logo, the harder it is to actually read. This is actually
Mhm.
relatively legible for like these genres. You
Well,
can
it was the '90s.
actually, yeah. But I also love they still keep it like they make it symmetrical. So like
Yeah,
you know,
go for
the
that
B
root.
and the R look similar, and they have like the M right in the middle,
Yeah,
and you know,
that's a motif too.
mm-hmm,
A lot of them
yeah,
have a balanced kind of look. I really
mm-hmm,
like Ghost's logo.
yeah, it's cool.
You're
Yeah,
not, you're
it's
not into them, I know.
yeah, and it's in the most cliche way. It's like I wish they sounded like they looked. I'm thinking more bands like Batushka. Only they recently changed their name to Patriarch,
Well, here's the
I think.
thing. I think
But
that's on
anyway,
purpose
yeah.
because I think part of the social commentary there is that like I wish Christians were like they sounded. You know,
Ah, is that what it really is, or do
I'm
you?
the whole thing is kind of a what do you call it? Commentary. It's like a live action editorial cartoon.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but and I will say, like, I don't like hate them by any means.
mhm.
Like, and they're definitely a good band. It's just one of those. In a way, I kind of wish I liked them more than I did, like even as they are, because they do cool stuff, especially with the presentation and theatrics and like.
There's things that go on with the music too. I don't know if anybody cares about this, but
Well,
like
I do. So
like you know how like their music kind of sounds like happy, fun, jingle jangly kind of sound to it. So there's that, but then there's always something where I don't know exactly how to describe it, but like like the key goes flat or something when you expect it not to. There's always something about every melody, every riff, every something that has like a dark, broken feel to it.
yeah, it's like like a little unsettling.
Yeah, like it's a facade. And I think it's really interesting to put it into the music and to have it all be kind of like a mockery of organized religion, the whole thing, and then kind of making a mockery out of worship songs because a lot of them have those kind of soaring melodies and stuff where you're like, but he's like singing about the devil or he's singing about anti-religion or yeah, just being a human and
yeah, good stuff.
Mary on a Cross. Yeah. Have you heard that song? They did a concept album where it was supposedly Papa Emeritus or whoever it was and the rest of the band back in the 70s before they made it big. That was in the mythology. That's where it was. And so it had like a 70s sound to it. And so there was a song called Mary on a Cross. And in Sweden, I think that's where the lead singer is from. There's a kind of joint that, or it's in Amsterdam or Sweden, I forget which, but it's kind of a cross-shaped joint for some reason. It's a thing. And so marijuana cross. So it's like Mary on a cross, but it's supposed to be offensive also to all the Catholics.
Right.
Mary's on the cross. She's the Virgin, Immaculate, whatever. Jesus is the one who had to die because he was dirty. It's like...
Well, she was a virgin. Then apparently she got nailed. Oh. Anyway. Oh, yeah. So speaking of this.
What are you drinking?
So I figured. So I guess maybe to also partially introduce like the topic for the evening. Like I said, it's been about 3 years ago when like me and Matt kind of had that realization. Like, I think we're atheists. For me, it's actually tomorrow will be the 3-year anniversary of the specific day where I consider myself like officially becoming atheist. I'll get more into that later. But I guess just kind of like in honor of, really like what this show came out of, like you and me just hanging out drinking all the time. Many times either at Mad Tree or drinking Mad Tree beers. I had a few beers in the house, but I figured I had to go with Mad Tree tonight. It's their Tree Search. I think it's the same one I had last time, the number 14, the one that's actually an IPA and doesn't have the German lager yeast like that other one does.
Interesting.
But yeah, with the Citra and Chinook hops, which are two of my favorites. So yes, very, very, very tasty.
Chinook's
and a little... Yeah, I mean, I know it looks pretty light here, but I think it's actually believe it or not, one of their darker Tree Searches. Like they're usually like super pale, but this one at least has a little more gold to it.
Yeah. I'm not sure what they're doing yet. If they're trying to if they're trying out different stuff, if they're trying to get like a light bodied IPA or something that they're really, and I don't know, like they're trying to find like the thing that just floats everybody's boat and they haven't nailed it yet. So, or it's just a rotating release. I don't know.
Yeah. Cause I mean, the ABV is like 6.6. So, I mean, that's like right up there with, your regular, not light IPAs, but I mean, it's really smooth. Yeah. Well, it's smooth for an IPA, I guess, but still very bitter, obviously. But yeah. How about you?
I have a smoked Doppelbock from Schlenkerla in Germany. And I think, can you read old German font? How do you pronounce
Yeah,
that
it's
first word? Is it Acht?
It's probably Echt.
Echt.
It looks like, is it Aecht?
I think that's an A. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be Echt. That's basically the same as like if you ever see like an A umlaut. That's one thing I remember from German. Whenever I see it's an A, an O, and U. When you see an umlaut, it's the same as having that vowel with an E right after it. So they're interchangeable. I think they're going more to away from the umlaut, just like they're going away from like the est set, or which looks like a big B or a Greek beta that's actually a double S. I think like things like that, they're kind of considering those a little more old fashioned. So I think the more modern German is kind of moving away from the umlauts and S sets. But
I like them, but I get it. It's So this is the oldest smoked beer brewery in the world. It's a World Heritage Site. The shopkeeper told me today when I bought it, and it's made in the same place that it's always been made in, which is, I think it's like an old abbey basement in Germany.
Oh wow!
And I think it's also very close to. All right, so Oktoberfest is that in Bavaria? The original one is Munich.
Munich. Yeah, I think that's in Bavaria.
Or München.
Yeah, München. Mm-hmm.
How dare we call it the same name they call it?
Yeah. Can't have that. No.
Not in America. No, but it's really good. They're all super smoky, and it's like as smoky as you can get without being ashy. The way they roast the malt is over a smoky fire.
Nice.
It smells like a beer campfire.
Yeah, I love a good smoked bock. Yeah, a local brewery. It's Christian Moorline here in Cincinnati. Oldest brewery in Cincinnati. It's from like the 1860s or something. But every year for Bockfest, which is in March, they make a smoked bock. It's called Friar Bacon's smoked bock. It's really good.
My next one that I'm going to open after this is from what brewery is this? Trillium. So Trillium, apparently, this shop only gets the beer from them a couple times a year, and they're in stock for like a week, and then they're gone until who knows when. So it's an India Pale Ale with wildflower honey in it, but the title is called Cutting Tiles. The name of the beer. And when I saw it, I thought it said Cutting Ties, and I was like, that is perfect for tonight. Also, the Smoky Christmas beer is very perfect because after we had our ties cut, or we cut ties with Christian community, they thought we were probably going to hell, which is very smoky, probably. And also Christmas.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I was wondering, like, is hell smoky? Because usually you get smoky, the logs have to be wet. But I guess if it's people burning down there, we are like mostly water, so that's basically very wet logs. So yeah, hell is probably very smoky. So you're welcome, everyone, for that visual or whatever. But so yeah, let's see, anything else going on? Yeah, so I guess unless there are any other updates or things you had for the people,
not really. I don't know. Elections coming up. Everybody's holding their breath.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, remember we're going to have our special Tuesday night edition with friends of the show and former guests, Derek Day, Aaron Tomlinson, and Jimmy Ligon will be. And whoever else wants to show up and join in, I guess, as well. But yeah, we still haven't. I should probably actually like reach out to everyone first, make sure we're still doing it, because it's been a while since we've actually discussed it, and also talk about like what do we actually want to do? Is it just going to be a hangout? Do we want to make it anything more than that? But yeah,
having some direction would be good, because we can't all just it'd be really hard to take turns talking.
Yeah. And also decide if we're actually going to be like showing, like giving like live updates, or we're just going to treat it more as like, here's an escape. but I mean, I guess it wouldn't be much of an escape if we're still like actually talking like politics and election stuff. But anyway.
Yeah, like I could have it running in a little window, and then if anything like good happens, I mean, it's probably not gonna be decided on election night, and there's enough Trump supporters in election roles across the country. We might see some tomfuckery with the voting.
I'd like to see some tomfuckery.
Are they like
what?
It's going to be messy. It's going to be messy. It's not going to be. It would be great if Harris won, by a lot. So there was, like no debate what America wants.
Right.
And it's probably not going to happen like that. I think she's probably going to win. But Trump has not been acting like someone who's worried lately, which worries me.
But he's also getting like old and senile probably as well.
Right. It's real hard to say, because even like his cheerleader types are off and on nervous. I don't know. It's going to be messy. War in the Middle East is probably starting again. Israel has said like what kind of facilities they're going to hit, which is nice of them. Also stupid to say ahead of time.
I mean, I'm sure there's a reason for it, but
they don't want anybody to freak out like they're going for like nuclear sites or civilian targets and stuff. But not a great sign when you have to like reassure people that you're not going to, bomb hospitals and stuff like you have been. It's like, no, just military sites this time. Everybody went,
this time, right?
I mean, like you've said all along.
Yeah.
Not great.
Anyway.
North Korea has troops in Russia/Ukraine right now. That's ramping up, which is super neat.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, America's like, we still don't want to do anything. We'll just give you our old stuff and maybe some money. And they're like, but here's the crazy thing, okay? Like, I have not seen this on the news except on the leftist like news thing I watch. So when there's a major change like that, where like another nation's military is going to be on the ground in the Russia-Ukraine war, that's a major big deal. Especially since North Korea could throw like 1 million people at it and they'd be better off for it, just because like they have no money to pay for anything. So, they get some experience in a war, and then they also like have less people coming back they got to feed. But like the president is obligated to brief members of Congress, especially in certain committee roles, when there's a major shift in a military conflict that the U.S. is supporting, because that's like a substantial potential escalation. And the Biden administration has said nothing to Congress, nothing, not even a statement release. And so this is escalating into like World War kind of, like you can't have a world war unless other countries get soldiers on the ground in a regional war, which is what's happening.
Yeah.
So this could like
key step.
Yeah. Quickly escalate. And so he's like, man, I'm gonna be gone in 2 weeks. So he's just not doing anything. He's like, Israel, you need to get out of like all the humanitarian spaces and let food in, so like the famine stops. And he's like, you got 30 days. Did I mention I'll be gone in 3 weeks? So he just like also Why 30 days? It's not hard to just let food in. Like,
yeah, it's like, and if people are starving, like it's like they're not going to still be around in 30 days if they don't have food now.
Also, you could say weapons shipments are postponed until we see results.
Right.
That would be American law, also.
Yeah, but since when have we cared about that?
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I know we haven't.
Right. Well, anyway, want to talk about something happier?
So, in November, we're also going to find out a lot about UAP and non-human intelligence.
It'll be a fun month. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. November. It has everything: non-human intelligence, non-intelligent humans. Yeah. Anyway, so let's go back about 3 years ago, if you don't mind. I guess you should probably get consent for that sort of thing before, Anyway,
what?
So it's the fall of 2021. I had just gone into remission from stage 4 melanoma. Lorna Shore was the hottest deathcore band in the world. It was good times.
They still are really good.
And yeah, they're still, like, as far as like even for deathcore, even like they are like super popular, and they've like blown up. Like they've gone on tours with like Mastodon and Gojira and Parkway Drive, Bring Me the Horizon, for anyone who has any idea who any of those bands are. It's a big deal. Anyway, so yeah, fall of 2021. Like we'd both been deconstructing for like a few years, probably at that point. And then, like I said, both of us like talking about this stuff with each other all the time. We were doing the old 3 Beer Gospel podcast.
In a small group. Were we in a small group at that point together?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That went until at least in like early 2022, I want to say. Yeah.
We were well and truly deconstructed at that point when we went in.
Yeah. And because I think at this point I'd already like at least come out like to some people and the guys in the group basically saying like I don't consider myself Christian anymore. But basically just like saying like I'm just not taking any of this Christian stuff for granted. Like I'm not just assuming any of it. I'm like completely like everything's on the table or the chopping block or however you want to see it.
The charcuterie board.
Yeah. Charcuterie is just Lunchables that went to Harvard.
Yeah, but it's on wood usually. That's neat.
They have a lot of wood at Harvard, so
kind of gross though. When like meat is on a wood like board, or something, and you're like, how clean is that? If there's been meat on there a lot. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So we'd been deconstructing. I think at this point, maybe I don't remember. Like, when would you say you maybe not atheist, but maybe just considered yourself like at least no longer Christian? Like, do you remember like about when that was, or?
I think it was a little before you, or I don't know.
Well, it's not a contest, Matt.
No, because like it was around the same time, maybe before, but I didn't like announce it. But I think it was obvious to everybody in the group based on like where I had been previously that It was not a surprise to them when I told them that I was not allowed to be part of MASH. And they were like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yes. The prayer team that we were both like serving on. Yeah, and I'll be honest, like even at that point, like, and still, because you've talked about still like interest in it, and I understand like how much you miss it because of like how impactful it was and how much you just enjoyed it. But yeah, I remember at the time thinking like, yeah, like not like them saying like, yeah, I didn't expect you to be accepted either, but like part of me was like confused, not saying like I don't understand why as any sort of like pejorative or saying it was like wrong for you, but no, just like, in a very literal sense, like I did not understand why you even still wanted to do it at that point. But yeah,
I think because I like I was part of it was a little bit of denial that I wasn't part of that anymore. Also, I was able to.
You had been a part of it like for a lot longer than I had, so it was definitely like more.
Yeah, I had.
It was a much bigger deal for you, probably.
I was one of the guys that had been there the longest. Yeah. Not since the very first one, but since the second man camp.
Yeah.
And then I only missed like one or something because of a vacation. But yeah, no, so like, but I could still, in my mind, I could see the good parts of it. And I thought like maybe good meaning, like good regardless of their religious context. Like these are just good things for people.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep doing those things. And I also kind of knew that at that point, I felt like I could be part of it and be myself at the same time. And I wanted them to tell me that I wanted to be them who told me I couldn't be part of it and not me. Partly because I wanted them to have the experience of telling me no when like I had been part of it longer than any of the guys who were in charge of it, which was not that I would like wanted to be in charge of it, but I thought it was really annoying that like, the people in charge had all been new like 2 years before, 2-3 years before. And because they were all up leadership's ass about like Jesus in like the most hetero way possible, you know. Yeah, but because they were all sniffing each other's skirts about like all like alpha male like peer group thing, and so it didn't matter. Like, yeah. So I wanted them to tell me that like somebody that like they had told me they looked up to, and it was kind of like thought it was like super spiritual and stuff. And at the time, even like when they told me this, when I was a Christian, I was like, this is stupid. I'm not. Like, what are you talking about? I look up to you guys. Stop it. And what are you doing? I'm uncomfortable. and it's like, I want to be appreciated, but I just don't want you to tell me I'm appreciated. I get really uncomfortable. And
right. Yeah.
No, but I wanted to make them tell me to hit the road. Because as kind of a fuck you, as like, yeah, you have the like the tragic internal conflict where you're like, this guy I looked up to, and now he's like really not saying anything super wrong, except that like he thinks LGBTQ people are totally cool, and like nothing unethical going on there, unless it's something that like is actually unethical according to like law and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So and it was super great to like tell them that yeah, I was basing my part of my in the beginning when I had based my viewpoint on the queer community on what Jesus said and not what Paul had said. That was like the beginning. And so then when I explained that to them and I was like, well, I don't see why I was like, I don't see why this is such a deal breaker when this is something Paul said and not something Jesus said. It didn't even allude to the topic at all. Uh, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, so I think it makes more sense to just say, okay, whatever, man. Um, like, are you on board with what Jesus taught? Let's do that. And like, let God sort out the LGBTQ stuff. So I was like, if it's wrong for people to be LGBTQ, like, who are we to think that like we're louder than God? You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
supposedly God has been
Yeah.
telling them over and over again, and like, don't be you. And like, we're
Right.
gonna come in and be like, but have you heard me say it?
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, we were supposed to be telling them, like, basically, we were speaking for God. Like that was kind of the job.
But it pretty much never happened though. I was
Yeah.
in like a little group praying for someone who was just kind of like, yeah, I'm gay, and we ignored it. I was following somebody else's lead because he outranked me or whatever that was, and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
um
He had the
he didn't
better
really
color
touch on it
lanyard. Yeah.
at all. uh which I guess is better than condemning someone, but like when somebody says something and you act like they said nothing, like that's also bad.
Yeah.
I don't see
I'm
you,
sure
I
they were
don't see.
probably, yeah, because I'm sure they were probably expecting some kind of reaction for sharing that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's weird.
But so I think there
Huh.
was more of that where it was just kind of being ignored unless somebody who was afraid of their own sexuality like happened to be praying with someone and they're like,
Mm.
that's bad.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
God still loves you, but you
Yeah.
won't get the blessings.
That's what I have to tell myself every day.
So
Yeah.
be afraid of God. Don't be afraid of God.
Like it's fear of God, but it's not like fear. It's just fear.
But if God, withholds blessings, then the enemy comes in is like playtime. Um,
Yeah. Which, by the way, like, let's just take a moment to appreciate how much more of, according to like this whole theology and most Christian theology, the way they talk about it, just how much more accessible and available Satan and demons are
yep.
than God and the Holy Spirit. Because like apparently, like to really make sure you got Jesus in your heart and you're filled with the Holy Spirit, it's like constant like prayer and scripture reading and fasting and like fellowship and going to church and like
Yeah.
staying in the word and like it's all it's like
But
it's not about works, but it's about works. But apparently, all you got to do for like Satan or a demon take over is just like touch a Ouija board or listen to Slayer, and
yeah,
and you're set.
Slayer's not even that rough,
Oh yeah, I mean, come on. I mean,
Yeah. I
yeah. I mean, they literally like one of my favorite songs of theirs. Like, literally has the line "fuck me, Satan," and like.
that reminded me of one of the boarders in the fraternity house, the Christian fraternity house that I lived in, was part of for a while. It was a guy in one of my classes. He was living in one of the rooms. He was not a Christian, and his like sort of girlfriend, but like um they had a weird relationship.
Hmm.
It was like they like kind of hated each other, and that was a turn on or something. I don't know. Um,
I
but
can dig it. That's cool.
so they would literally screw around in his room, and she'd stay there overnight and leave, which was like totally against the rules. And so he wouldn't get kicked out. She'd usually leave early in the morning or something. But apparently, one time before she left, she wrote, "I love Satan's concubine." on the wipe off board on his door, and she was calling herself Satan's concubine. And he got pissed because, of course, someone's like, we need to have talk about this. This is not funny. Satan's concubine is a real thing, and it's not funny. Is she really good for you? Or like, they didn't. It was. And he's like,
I laughed because I would have been that same person to try to have a talk with this guy at that time. So, yeah.
But he's like, we're not on the same page at all. He's like, why do you think you can speak into my life on this topic? Like,
right? Yeah, that's something we talked about last week when we were talking about like evangelism. It's just like, and it's not just Christianity. It's like several other religions that seem to give the people who are part of it, it's like they feel like they just have the authority and permission to, speak truth into someone else's life, even if they're like a complete stranger. Like, I don't have to know the details. I just have to know like my truth and what my religion teaches. And then that automatically gives me the answers to like whatever they're going through. And it's, I've been on the receiving end of that since leaving, which has been fun.
Do you remember when we were progressive Christians? I think about the time I realized there was a name for it, I was already moving on from it. I felt like I was there pretty briefly.
Yeah, for me, it felt like I was there for a while. Maybe like at least a year, probably. Or maybe I wasn't, because even like before I considered myself atheist, people were telling me that I was basically an atheist at that point. I'm like, which I actually took offense at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But of course they weren't condemning you.
No. Well, the one person I have in mind definitely was. And it's someone like I actually like unfriended this guy twice. First time just because, but then the second time, like to his credit, like he like refriended me, like I guess after he found out like I had cancer, so he wanted to like keep in touch, see how I was doing. I was like, okay, we'll see if I can behave. But like, it wasn't long before like I guess we still could not behave ourselves. So I unfriended him again. I almost want to reach out to him like, hey, guess what? You were right. Because I almost feel like, because this is something like, so speaking of progressive Christianity, like I said, it was something I definitely identified for like at least a year, maybe even two, I don't know. But now like the more, and this is part of the reason why I ultimately just left Christianity altogether. I kind of have a lot of these same like problems and issues and annoyances with progressive Christianity that a lot of the more fundamentalist Christians also have. So like in a way, I kind of agree with them on that. So I part of me actually wants to at some point have like one or two like super like fundamentalist Reformed Calvinist like Christians on the show, just so we can like shit on like progressive Christians together. In a nice way though, not, but maybe just commiserate with our frustrations with them.
I think so. One of the things about
sorry, shit on sounded mean. I didn't mean for that to sound mean.
So what I remember from progressive Christianity was that it was the realization that whatever it was we called God and the Holy Spirit, like it was an ever-present thing. It wasn't like sometimes it goes away if you're bad. Like it wasn't like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that fundamentalism went away. I think that was an important step to get where we are now. Because that feeling of being okay all the time.
Yeah.
Or at least not alone, that kind of thing. And then we realized, well, that was us. Like we're always where we are. And
can't help it. But yeah, because that was and I think ultimately one of the things that really, because I guess with tonight, what I'm really trying to, because like we talk all the time, like our problems with Christianity or religion or theism in general, like all the time. But tonight, I'm really wanting to focus in on like what was it like at that time, around 3 years ago, and now that the things that caused us to go from Christian to non-Christian and then non-Christian to atheist, like specifically at that time. And and for me, like I've been trying to remember, because it's, to me, like a lot of that time period is pretty fuzzy, but I do remember at least one of the things that pushed me like at least out of progressive Christianity, and then I think this was sort of like on that continuum to atheism, just that same like through line of this problem of, okay, so we're leaving behind like the Bible specifically as our like foundational source of truth and theology and who God is and all of that. So it's like you said, getting to a point where I think God is, like we would say that, well, God is bigger than the Bible, or God is bigger than Christianity. He's bigger than religion. But then what I realized, the more I was talking with people and hearing all these like very different, sometimes still very contradictory views of God, like within the broader progressive Christian umbrella. So it's like, okay, so it's not based on the Bible anymore, but then starting to realize now it's not really based on anything other than just what the person, whether they put it this way or not, but essentially just what they chose to believe.
Yeah.
Like,
or is it like, based on everything? I kind of feel like shit turned inside out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's, because like, and I'll still say, like, is where I would say, well, at least like the fundamentalists, or even not necessarily fundamentalists, but just run of the mill, like evangelical, mainstream, whatever you want to call them, type Christians who were very much like Bible believing. It's like, as much as I would say, well, at least they had something to base it on in the Bible, or in, the Catholic Church, maybe it's more like church tradition or whatever. But even that, realizing like if you take the Bible as a whole and actually read it as it was written and as the people who wrote it intended it to be written and read, you really can't make a religion based on all of that.
No.
There is just so much like diversity and contradictory diversity in a lot of ways. Like there is no, as much as like all these like fundamentalist Christians love to say, like there's a single like through line, it's a continuous story, it all is in agreement. Like, no, it's like completely not. It is like, so that's why we have so many denominations.
If you
that's also why all agreement. These yeah, but that's it. Like that's not only why we have so many denominations, but also why all of those denominations have scriptural basis.
Yeah.
So it's like, so if you're a universalist, you can find scriptural support. If you believe in eternal conscious torment, you can find scriptural support. If you're a like total like predeterminist, like election, like God only saves certain people, you have scriptural support for that. If you're on the other end, you have scriptural support for that. So like on any issue, pretty much.
I think
I
was just thinking, I think the main reason for that, like the core reason, is that it's a religion without a core doctrine. Like none of the original documents, first of all, don't have original documents. They're all decades later, written by people who, which is the whole thing.
Like the whole like the doctrine of inerrancy, saying, well, the Bible is inerrant in its original like writings. So like, okay, well, that's like a useless doctrine because we don't even have the original. So like,
and the Bible doesn't say that. Yeah. So like, but
too.
So Christianity is like a spin-off of Judaism, but it's a spin-off without a core doctrine. Like Judaism has like laws and lots of there's a whole tradition, like the Midrash tradition and the different I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically commentary on Hebrew scriptures that became doctrine. So like they have something to really base it on. They built over time. Still some of the same inherent problems, but there's a lot more to go back to, and they have a tradition of saying like the scriptures are alive, and there's like always new meaning, always new understanding, and so it's flexible and it grows. Then you got Christians who are like, it's not flexible, it doesn't grow, it stays the same. They're like, same as what? Same as this analogy. And you're like, that's the doctrine. Let's roll with it. Paul said these things, kind of nailed it down a bit more. But Paul's one guy who saw Jesus in a vision, didn't really walk the earth with him, like, or ever meet him.
Yeah.
And like, this was always going to be a problem.
But speaking of like the differences in like Paul versus Jesus, basically, I mentioned her on the show before, but Dr. Jennifer Bird, like I've seen some videos of hers that she's done recently. She was talking specifically like about the book of Acts and how it relates, like how Paul is in the book of Acts and like that story versus like Paul's actual writings that he does later. But saying it's almost like
fiction, basically.
Yeah, it's like Acts is almost trying to rewrite some things, because her point is like basically like Paul's version of Christianity was really not original, like Jesus and his actual disciples Christianity. That's why, you even see like Paul actually says like, I got my, he says, I don't remember which letter it was, but say like, I got my gospel, I didn't get it from any person, and he talks and like it was just from God.
Oh, damn! That's
from Revelation,
like a direct slam against the real earthly Jesus, pretty much.
Yeah, and also like, I mean, there's even stories about like Paul like having a dispute with Peter. One of the actual original like ask the Catholic Church how important Peter was. Like, where the person to whom Jesus said like, "You are the rock upon which I will build my church," and Paul disagreed with him.
They had a whole East Coast,
and the church ended up
thing going on.
Yeah. But then the church ended up going with Paul on that disagreement. I think it was about
he was in the Roman Empire. They had all the money.
Right.
Money writes history.
Yeah. So, and I never really thought about this before, but like kind of put yourself back in that time. And like, the Christians today who like pride themselves on being like fundamentalists and like truly original and everything. It's like, okay, if you were around like the actual like OG disciples, and like Peter, at least,
it might beat your ass.
Not to mention, but then all of a sudden this guy comes along who before had been like killing your group of people, but then he just all of a sudden comes along and is like, hey, everyone, I had a vision, it's going to be like this now, and like your main guy Peter disagrees with him
there for a second. Hey everybody. I had a vision.
I can imagine Paul sounding like Trump. That tracks. But can you like if all these modern Christians, like if they were to like put themselves back in that time, like they would have thought Paul was like full of shit and like just some crazy dude. Like,
well, they did, yeah. And then I forget if there's reason to believe that the reason why the disciples and Paul, got cool with each other is because Paul was bringing in a lot of money in donations. And the church in Jerusalem, is that where they were? I think that's where they were based.
Yeah.
They could really use that money because that was a poor area. Even the rich people were poor compared to Roman standards.
Yeah.
It's all very human, which is really interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Like I still really like the Bible for different reasons.
Yeah.
Because there is some stuff in there where I'm like, oh, I think they were getting at something. I think they were really getting at something there. But it's because it was people trying to make sense of things beyond themselves. And so there are some like subjective reality kind of like deep things, that they come across in there. But it's not but it's not better than anything else. Like I've read other religious books and I've gotten like that same kind of human experience out of it. So I think it's more just like I have like a lineage attachment to it because my people since way back have been Christians or Catholic.
For sure. Oh, so speaking of which, this is something I meant to bring up earlier. So earlier today, I chose to subject myself to a video of a conversation between Richard Dawkins and Jordan Peterson. I think what gave me hope
to me when I saw it, I still didn't believe it. I didn't watch it, but I saw like the little still image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thumbnail for it. Yeah. But I think what maybe gave me hope for it was that it was like moderated or hosted or whatever by Alex O'Connor, who like I'm a huge fan of. But and I was actually impressed with him, like how well because I swear, like the whole thing was like an hour and a half, and I swear like an hour of it was Jordan Peterson talking. Like the other, like that Dawkins, like relatively, like hardly talked at all because Jordan Peterson's like the guy, like you ask him a yes or no question and he talks for 5 minutes at least without saying yes or no. And Alex, to his credit, like he was doing a good job of like trying to keep him on track. Like, hey, remember that question that Richard like just asked you? How would you like to answer it? And he's like, or basically in so many words saying like, you do realize what he actually asked you though, and how you're not answering it. Right. But he wasn't like rude about it. He was like very much, I'm just trying to keep us on track. Cause we have a time limit, just, making sure we get to all the things or any of them. Huh? But, but of course, like, Dawkins was just being his like usual. So I'm still generally a fan of Dawkins, just, if for no other reason, just like how important of a voice he is now, like his views on like transgenderism. It's like,
he's an old guy.
What the fuck's wrong with him on that?
He's an old guy who can't grasp new realities. And is sure he's right, which is because he's
unfortunate. Yeah,
I'm dealing with things with old people in my life also.
Yeah, same. But yeah, so basically, at least like I remember, like halfway through it, and basically, my summation of it was, if people remember that, meme. It's a meme anymore, but it's like from The Simpsons, the newspaper, like old man yells at cloud. But I was like, to me, like my impression of this is old man yells at cloud, and cloud yells back.
Like, but which one's the cloud? And like both ways make sense to me.
To me, like, and Peterson is definitely the cloud, and Dawkins is definitely the old man yelling at clouds.
But
that was like my impression. I don't know, but that was at least my impression, like partway through. But by the end, like they actually came to some pretty cool, like common ground and agreement, and like kind of like food for thought for like future discussions. It was
that's amazing.
So yeah, where it actually ended up was actually pretty cool. But I think on the question of, I don't know if it was a question of, I think it was whether Jesus actually was born like by a virgin birth. And Alex finally got Jordan to just say, I don't know. Like, which that's was amazing. Very impressive.
Yeah.
So that was cool to see, but
I don't think anybody else could do that. That seems like that's a rare find of a person that can get an answer out of him without pissing him off.
Yeah, Alex is an impressive individual for sure. But yeah, so anyway, but yeah, so we're talking about the Bible.
Is not impressive. He needs to.
Yeah, yeah, he had more of a full beard before, like
yeah,
a little more substantial than what I have. Like it's coming. But oh yeah, so yeah, what got me on that was talking about the Bible, and like I was saying, like yeah, but it's really not better than like any other books, but maybe still has some good stuff. But because they were talking about the Bible, and Jordan was going on about how like, I mean, and by whatever the fuck definition he has of what it means to be a divine book or an inspired book, it's really hard tell. And I think he even said as much as like for him, it's even really hard to really figure out what he thinks of a lot of those things, which I'm like, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, stop saying you have an answer and say nothing. Like, you know, like,
yeah. Yeah, but he would like talk about various Bible stories and how like this was like, oh, this is like just so insanely insightful and like how, and I'm like, because he's saying like how the Bible is pointing out all these things that are like so fundamental to like human reality and existence. I'm like, is it really impressive that humans are noticing things that are fundamental to being human?
Well,
and like
it is
truths about reality. I mean, but
no, and like
it's cool. I mean, it's cool that it's definitely takes some insight, but I don't know how you can say that takes something that like transcends humanity. Like maybe it's just humans are just noticing stuff, and that's why.
Yeah, I think there's probably some kind of tapping into like a not a collective unconscious, but like some kind of collective consciousness. It's like some kind of awareness of what people around you are thinking on like a sensory kind of level. So it is interesting that there are some things people explored about the human condition before we had the ability to measure things. Like they intuited certain things about being a person, and it didn't come out in a factual expression. It came out in a like an allegorical or metaphorical expression. So that's really interesting to see how like people's brains kind of like secreted, you know, like bigger wisdom than like they knew they had. But no, like that clearly came from somewhere a little different than like regular everyday thinking. But to then say, "Oh, it came from a god," the universe just kind of spit it out, which is also really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and considering that as humans, like we're literally just another part of the universe.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
so yeah, we're gonna notice things about the universe because we're the part of the universe that notices things.
Right, but that's still really cool.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
that like I said, a planet could like select for like basically our environment, like our planet, like sort of like selected for different things just based on what it was. Those things survived, and then like they got better at certain things and sneeze.
Gesundheit.
And then like this kind of like fruit of the earth started figuring shit out. Like like that's nuts. Like we're just like rearrangements of like solar dust. And now we can understand where the dust came from. That's nuts. Oh. We're not even all of the dust. We're just like a little bit of it. And it's crazy.
And we only understand certain aspects of the things that are in the small segments of the universe that we can actually perceive.
Yeah.
Like, so I want to get back to our whole like
that could have been
birding and
what good.
What flip the switch. But real quick, something I want to bring up that like has like blown my mind recently. I wish I could remember where I first heard this thought expressed. I don't know if it was on our friends Derek and Aaron's show. I mean, I'm sure they've said things like this, or if it was on. Do you watch the sci-fi show like sci like PHI FIs and like science philosophy with
No, but I need to now.
Yes, it's so the guy who hosts it, his name is Phil. I can't remember his full name, but like
my goodness, sorry, I opened my next beer. That is,
I know the feels, man.
Oh my gosh, there's something going on with the yeast and the hops. There is that's a brand new smell.
Oh, well, I'm glad I could be here for it.
It's a little funky, right? But like, like in a Swiss cheese kind of way, but not Swiss cheese. Not a Swiss cheese smell, but in that kind of way where you're like, oh, Oh,
more, please. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, the sci-fi, like science and philosophy show. It's hosted by this guy named Phil. I can't remember his last name, but like his YouTube channel is Skydiver Phil, and then he has on as guests. They're mainly philosophers. But I think they're mainly like philosophers of science or religion,
those are
respectively.
great.
So there's Alex Malpass, who's like one of my favorites, and Dan Linford is like, I think he may. I want to say he was maybe. I remember on a show, like one of our first shows, you talk about this guy who you referred to as like one of the smartest guys in the world. Like he's a big guy, but he kind of talks all gentle like this. And,
Oh yeah, he has like a tall, like his head looks like it shouldn't stay on his neck.
and does he usually does he have glasses and his hair usually back in a ponytail?
No ponytail on this guy. No.
Oh, okay. Never. Then maybe we're talking about different people. But anyway, this guy Dan Linford, like, but I mean, both him and Alex, like, super brilliant. So I don't know if this was on their show or like somewhere I heard this basically put in terms of like, so we think about like the universe and like how we construct our version of reality, and to me, it's like so weird, like the things that we do notice, like especially the things that humans do, and I'm like, still like sometimes my brain kind of struggles to comprehend like how did all this just come across naturally, because like the things that humans are doing, like making like cars and cities and having jobs and doing things like nothing else in all of the cosmos, at least apparently, does anything like this. But
wait, say that again.
Like how like the things that humans do, as far as like, like we have jobs and cars and
Oh yeah.
podcasts and internet.
That's
it's like
all shit we made up.
Yeah, but part of me is like, well, how does it really just seem that impressive to us? Because like the universe does all kinds of stuff. So maybe this is just another thing. Because also thinking about just how limited our perspective is, but even like thinking of it in terms of say like if radio waves were conscious in any sense or had any sort of awareness, like you think of like all the things that like radio waves just pass through and don't interact with at all, like. So like to radio waves, like people probably don't even exist, or
yeah. I saw a clip on Facebook, but it there's an art installation somewhere in England right now where you can some scientists figured out like how to show us what it would look like to see through a bee's eyes. Because they have like 5 eyes, and it blew my mind. Because I'd already been thinking about that kind of stuff you're describing, where like, sure, that's what all that stuff looks like from our perspective, but this all might not even exist to like other perspectives.
Yeah.
And so the way bees see a person, it's, or anything really, it's kind of like they see everything like it's bees. It's incredible. Like, it's kind of profound to realize that, like, of course, bees seeing things through bees' eyes, everything would look kind of like bees. You know what I mean? Like, or something that like they can relate to on their level. And so the way we see the world is not the way even birds see the world, because they see different colors and different things than we do. And
they can see in the ultraviolet in addition to what we see. Yeah. So there's my question for all those intelligent design folks. Like, why the fuck do birds have better eyes than we do? Than octopuses do, even. Like,
and watching octopuses. Have you ever seen like a chameleon kind of octopus?
Yeah.
They can't. They not only can mimic mimic colors, but they can mimic textures. Like,
that's crazy.
Skin can there's spikes on it and shit. Like, but
speaking of like,
have like a mini brain in each one of their tentacles. There's a weird thing, like their brain kind of seems to be throughout their whole body.
Yeah, wild, at least to us. But again, like from the universe's perspective, it's like it's just another arrangement of quarks and gluons and leptons and whatnot. But as far as like things that we're able to perceive and not, I think it's almost like we just kind of take for granted that like if something's there, like we can perceive it, like because that's been our experience. Like everything, like because obviously everything we know about we can perceive, But
no, there's other.
But someone was even saying like to the level of even if there are like other like if there is actually a multiverse, like other like realities and universes,
there's other layers.
They could basically kind of exist in the same space, but as long as they're made of things that we have no detection for, then like it could like the multiverse could be like literally right here or like in the middle of my head or like
and that's weird to us. We're like, oh, it's totally intrusive, they're right here with me, but to them it's normal.
Yeah.
Like, that's just dude jerking off over there. He does that. And
someone,
like to us that would be
someone's
like, oh
probably
my God, God is watching me. And
but because I mean you think about it, it's like we just kind of take for granted like, oh, if there's a thing there, we know it's there somehow. But it's like even like take things like smells. Like we just think, oh, if there's like some food in the room, we can smell it just because that's the way it normally works out. But really, like it has to be that these whatever specific molecules are coming off of that piece of food have to be entering our nose and interacting with very specific receptors.
Yeah.
It's like,
and we can't smell their other stuff, but other animals can. Yeah. For real. There's even like layers there.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, so I want to get back on the actual topic. As fun as this is, maybe we should like just talk about that sort of stuff more another time. So, So any other like thoughts or recollections you have, like specifically when it comes to like the turn, like from Christian to non-Christian, like what was there anything in particular that you thought about or realized that made you, because you talked about like the time period when you did kind of say, I don't think I'm a Christian anymore, but do you remember like what it was that actually kind of flip that switch, as it were? Or
let me kind of like think through this out loud.
Okay, I'll allow it.
So Erin, my wife, working at the church that we went to, and we were like really into this church. And Tommy, I know you knew this. I don't know if you remember it, but when I proposed to her on the property of that church. I wanted to do it in the like the Christmassy interior, but because it was that time of year, but they were cleaning up, wouldn't let us in. And actually, that might have been the thing that kicked it off. So it was the last show of the Christmas play for that day, and which was a big fucking deal. And now it's a whole stage production like outside of that church, and it's actually good. Like it's actually a good play, musical kind of thing.
Yeah.
Meant a lot to me at the time. I still think it's very cool for mostly amateur production. Amazing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So they wouldn't let us. So okay. So there's a show going on, and so the volunteers could go home at a reasonable time. The doors are locked, so nobody new can come in at that point because they're cleaning up out there.
Right.
And I was like I just really need to come in, like, and because Aaron didn't know I was about to propose to her, and they were like, no, we're cleaning up, and like everybody's gonna come out, and they're just gonna have to leave, and so normally when you come out after a show, you can like chill and like hang out, and it's kind of like a cool time. But because it's time to clean up, like these people, when they come out, like all the happy fun time holiday love stuff was before the play. Now they come out and they're like, gotta go home. Or like rolling up the carpet as you leave, basically. And I was like, oh, this isn't real. Like this was all just a production. even out here is a production. Like, it's not happy fun time out here. This is part of the show too. So that was kind of going on in my head. And I was also ticked because I'm like, this is our church. What do you mean I can't come in? So we went around in this little like side garden area, which was kind of cool. I proposed to her out there. And so then she ended up working there, and there was some strife.
Well, don't leave us hanging. What'd she say?
Oh, she said yes. She said no,
Sorry,
but we still live together.
She said no, but let's do it anyway. I want to be our
yeah. She said no, but married me anyway. And then the bloom was kind of off the rose, like seeing how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
And like, it is kind of as gross as that analogy suggests. People did get churned up, and
yep.
It was just, and this was probably one of like still I think might be the best mega church. Like, this was like high end, quality, not just production, but like, this is probably as good as it can be. And it was still rough.
Yeah. Man, we talk about them so much. We are going to have to start like actually doing like paying off on that thing we've been talking about, like actually reacting to like their sermons and stuff sometime soon. So yeah, sorry.
Anyway. So yeah, we got screwed over and it was a bad experience.
Allegedly.
For it. Yeah. From my perspective, we got screwed over.
Yeah. In my opinion. Yeah.
The reason why we're phrasing it that way is because they might be litigious. There was a document that may or may not have needed to be signed before we were able to maybe perhaps get severance pay. And that may or may not have been something about what we could or couldn't say about about the about, I was gonna say church, the organization.
Yeah, and that may or may not have been said on a previous episode of ours.
Yeah.
Don't go back and watch it.
So I don't think they have the money to sue anybody right now. But also,
what do you mean God doesn't have enough money? What?
I know, right? Why does God need everybody else's money?
Yeah, that's one of the most amazing things I saw recently. Someone like took a screenshot of like this. It was like a news article or something about this church. Like, this church is struggling and like something along the lines of like struggling and needing like more money. So it's doing this like fundraiser thing, like it's asking for more giving or whatever. And someone just commented, "Thoughts and prayers."
No, you got to be in. You got to buy in. It's like you got to buy into the company like you're a tech bro, you know? And it's like, got to go all in, Tommy. Got to go all in with what you don't have.
And I did, and it did not pay off at all. Like, see, but unfortunately, the absurd amount of
I learned something.
No, but I'm talking about like specifically during they actually had a campaign, like a giving campaign called All In or I'm In. It was I'm In.
I'm In.
And that was the one I referenced earlier where I gave like just
and if you don't give, you're out of the group, Tommy.
Yeah.
That's the implication.
Yeah, but that was the campaign where like I mentioned before where I gave just like the embarrassingly absurd amount of money. But unfortunately, I didn't give this absurd amount during the campaign where they actually said, well, hey, if you're giving extra during this one and you don't see God show up, we'll give you your money back. It's like I want to like send them an email. It's like, hey, can I get my money back? Because like literally after I gave all that money to your church and you promised God's really going to show up. Basically, the way my life has looked since then is like I lost the job that I had at that point. I lost the house that I had at that point. I got cancer and my marriage is over now. Refund, please. But there's no way they have.
I know how they're like. Oh, I kind of see what they're getting at. And you're like money back guarantee and shit. But like, also, who else does that? Infomercials. How can you not see it, people?
Now,
how can you not?
But
see
here's
this
the thing.
Is what's happening?
Now, here's the thing. I actually, when they did that one specific campaign, were like, okay, asking people to give above and beyond, and saying like, look, if you don't see any kind of blessing or something in your life, or God show up in some way, we will give you your money back. And I actually like really respected that because they were actually like taking it seriously. Because like, so I thought that actually was a really cool thing to do. Because like. No, I actually did. Like, no, that's how it should be. Because, like, if you're going to make all these promises to people, say, if you give us this money, this is what's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, you should give them their money back.
Right, but how much emotional priming also happened in services so that a logical fallacy wouldn't be triggered in your brain?
Oh, for sure, yeah. But
you know what I'm talking about?
But anyway.
Isn't there a what's that called? Where it's like an investment fallacy?
Sunk cost fallacy.
Sunk cost. So they're playing with the sunk cost, and so what bothered me about it was they're playing on the same kind of psychology that companies who provide a money back guarantee give. Is most people will not ask for their money back, even if they're not pleased, because there's a bunch of reasons, but it's just human psychology that won't happen, because nobody wants to be the person who admits they sunk a cost into something and didn't get a return. Our brains just kind of reject that. So that's what bothered me, is like the same kind of marketing shit that like is used to sell fucking laundry detergent. Like, the reason why I say laundry detergent is because there's a lot of people who worked for a particular soap company in town who then ended up like being in organizational leadership there. And I gotta say, my wife then went to work for this company after Crossroads, and that company treated her better. So what does that say about the people who left that company to come to work for a place that ends up treating people worse than where they came from? Are they like the bad guys from where they used to work? They're not really, but it's just weird, like the kind of cognitive dissonance that you'd have to go through.
Yeah, for real. But speaking of cognitive dissonance,
easy for you to say.
Apparently not. All right, so that was kind of the like.
I cut a sticker off my can.
Ooh, nice. Yeah.
Also, I've cut tiles before. I'm good at doing backsplashes.
Ooh. Yeah, so that's speaking of which, like I said, I definitely need to have you back to do some more at my place. Like I said, for those who don't know and who are in the at least general Cincinnati area, Matt's a handyman. Does fantastic work.
I was at Richburg's house today.
Ooh. But also, as we found out when he was at my place doing things, really another facet of the services he can provide, what I like to refer to as a toilet shoveling services.
Toilets are so easy to smash. Like,
I know. So he replaced. So he replaced my toilet because the one I had was just broken. And so we were trying to figure, okay, what do I do with it? I can either call like Rumpke and like pay them extra to come pick it up, or take it to a place where people may or may not accept drop-offs of this type, or wait for Halloween and stick it on my front porch with candy in the bowl and be hilarious. But we're just so like,
film.
Yeah. But we just decided the best play was we just take it in my driveway and just smash it to pieces, and then I'll just slowly throw it away bit by bit.
It makes a great sound when you smash it too.
Yeah. And so after all the smashed pieces, like I got out like the shovel and we were like shoveling it up and stuff. Like, oh, you offer toilet shoveling services. Just put that on your business card and watch the confused expressions roll in.
I was in like the old money part of Hyde Park today. It's the area where like they don't get anything. All right. So you know how like a Lexus is like flashy, but it's plastic. Like that's kind of the vibe from a Lexus. Well, we're in a part of town where like people have really nice cars and really nice houses, but all of it is high quality, and all of it was worth having. Like that was kind of the vibe.
Yeah.
So you walk into these people's houses and they've got just an excellent piece of furniture when you first walk in, but also it has some personality. You know, like you connect with it. You're like, that's good. Somebody has that. Like that's absolutely worth having. I'm sure it costs $5,000, but yeah, it's a nice. Rich people like that actually they're like really down to earth. They're just like that's been my experience. Is they're like me, but with more anxiety for no reason.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So you're talking about like when the kind of cracks started to form, like with the church they were going to.
Sorry, I got long-winded.
That's all right. There's a lot to say about them.
And at the same time, I had decided this wasn't it. Whatever that was, and that was sad. That was sad because I proposed to the fucking place, you know. And then they're like, yeah, you should probably not work here anymore because you're bad. It's like,
yeah, you're bad at the job we didn't hire you to do.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, it was
sorry.
wrong.
I'm gonna get in danger of like saying more things I shouldn't.
It was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was like, are you? So many times I wanted to just be like, really? This is really what happens next? Like,
yeah, it made no sense. But yeah, but anyway.
So at the same time, I was like, okay, that's clearly not it. At least that was my perception. And then, so okay, based on my perception, what is it? And so then I wanted to learn everything. And so I'm wearing the T-shirt today, the Deconstructionists. That was really important because they explored all of the ways that it could be, and that it was for different people who still called themselves Christians. I was learning all kinds of stuff about the Bible, and felt like I was getting closer to God. And then God was just getting bigger and bigger until I was like, okay, so what isn't God or a part of God, or and then like, okay, I can either say, okay, now everything is God and everything is part of God, kind of like everything is part of the universe, and so everything is the universe. It's like, what does that mean? Like, I could just call it God, or I could just call it the universe. Like, what's the difference? And like, which one do I want to call it? And then I kind of just stopped deciding. And so it's like, okay, like how does
a lot of work.
How does this? And then it just became, who am I? And figuring me out, and somehow that helps me figure out the universe / God. I don't know, but the term God is just too small. It automatically individualizes something that would be a combination of everything. So it just knocked the glass over on the floor. I'm like, where will it be safe? Where I'll kick it. That'll be good. So no, I just kind of ended up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I'm here now. Am I an atheist? Am I everythingist? Like, isn't that the same thing? So the reason why I hesitate sometimes to call myself an atheist, and it's not all the time, it kind of depends on my mood, which is fine with me, because it's like that's all I got feeling anyway, is how do I feel at the moment. And
right. Yeah.
that's really all we have to go on for any of us. I'm open to something bigger. Some of the non-human intelligence, maybe alien stuff. There's a whole lot of overlap between like religious, spiritual stuff and that, to the point where it seems like they're probably the same thing, which then just makes it part of science. And so, like, yeah, there's something beyond us that we kind of have a spiritual reaction to, because our filter isn't big enough to encompass that. So when a little bit of it comes through, we're kind of like, purple elephants or whatever, and our brain breaks a little bit, and we see like flaming chariots and shit in the sky, like.
Right. I mean, to be expected. I mean, yeah. So, yeah. So I was about to like say some more like on my end. Was there anything else?
Go for it. No, I'm done.
So
I feel bad. I feel like I talked too long.
Oh no, I mean, this whole thing tonight is for both of us to talk as much as we need to about ourselves. So that's
I figured that, but I also felt bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, welcome to my life. I know I'm doing the right thing, but I still feel bad.
That was like episode 2 of She-Hulk that I just watched last night. Everybody's like, no, you did the right thing. Absolutely did the right thing. We also have to fire you. I was kind of like, America.
Right?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, for me, like I said, my deconversion, like in so many ways, like had its roots in my deconstruction. So in a way, all the fundagelicals who were like, don't deconstruct, it'll just like lead you down that slippery slope to like atheism. Like, well, at least in my case, turns out they were right. But
that's where you were supposed to stop. Like, that's where you stop. Other people might stop somewhere else.
Yeah. But anyway, but really one of the biggest things for me ended up being, and this was probably for the most part influeed by Greg Boyd and his whole like cross-centered hermeneutic.
I do like that was that was big for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Well, I learned about him from you, so I would hope so. Like I said, like this is all your fault, essentially.
I don't know what to do with that. Because what if I'm wrong? Like way wrong.
Hey, but like I've said, like I like the person I am now, thanks in large part to you. So
that I like that a lot. I think
that's good. You better.
I think that's what human beings should like strive to hear from another person. Maybe that's just me, but
yeah,
if global warming fucks everything and we all like boil in an ocean or something, then that's all that matters,
Yeah, because people like some people ask me like, why do you post all that stuff about like not being Christian anymore and your problems with Christianity and religion and all and with God and all this stuff? Like, why do you keep talking so publicly about it? It's because
the ivory tower.
Right, but it's because like part of it just for the catharsis and me just not wanting to hold all this stuff in.
No,
and, put it out there. What, like for one, just to express myself, but also to see like, okay, here's my thinking on this thing. Like, do you have what do you people think? Like, is there a response? Am I wrong here? Am I crazy? What?
And that's the most human thing to do is to be like, here's me, response.
Right. That's essentially what it is to be human. But also because of some of the responses I have been getting, like what I've told you, people in so many words and in so many different ways, but basically saying is like,
some of it means
my life is better because you are sharing your experience.
That's amazing.
So
that's that was another one of the big things that put me like way over the top. Was when I started, especially when I started listening to or watching like leftist stuff, having been a conservative before, and like the lies that I had heard about the left and the people on the left, and then watching, seeing, hearing like all of these people on the left being lovely human beings to each other, like just more kind than I experienced in a like conservative Christian community. And like that's what it is. If it's anything, it's something like that. Yeah. And like they were like actually saying, like, if you like want to be a Christian, that is great for you. If you want to do that, great. If someone else is making you do it, that sucks. Don't do that.
Right.
And like we want to live in a world where it's okay for you to do that, but we don't want to live in a world where it's okay for you to mistreat people because your book says. Like and even if you feel obligated to do that because your book says, and that's you're being you. Also, please understand this is us being us. And if there's more of us that like want this thing to happen versus your version, like just understand that's how it goes. Like that's like societal democracy. That's like us voting with our actions. And if people are like, oh, well, the left takes such great good care, the people on the left with this like perspective on things, they took such great care of me. When I was rejected by my group, they didn't just accept me in because like they're like, cool, our team now. Like it was because that was a hurting person who needed people. And
yeah.
And that was, I realized how much I had been hurting that I had ignored, that other people had ignored, and other people had helped me ignore. And
that's the worst. Yeah.
And that brings me back to that one night where I said, how dare you hide me from me? And that's, and they accuse people on the left of having a hive mind. And, it's like, no, we're a bunch of fucking individuals doing whatever the fuck we want. Like, whatever we think is good, that's all we have to go on. And
so what you just said there, how dare you hide me from me? Like, I actually don't. Had you mentioned that before? Because I actually don't remember that.
I said it another night, and it was one of those moments where like I didn't know I was thinking it until I said it.
Because that's like, to me, that is the ultimate response to, at least for me, like to Christianity or religion. Like, I guess you can say my ultimate beef with it. Yeah. That was very well put.
It's super insidious.
Yeah.
And having been in that place, I know it's done on purpose, but I know it's done for what they think is good, the good.
Yeah, they do it intentionally, but they think they're supposed to because they think that's actually helping. But
because you can't have the bigger perspective of like the bad guy thinks they're the good guy. Like once you realize that, and then you can ask yourself the question, am I the baddie?
Are we the baddies? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, back to Greg Boyd.
Lovely man. So, he spoke at our church once.
Yeah.
Were you there for that?
I was not.
They didn't have him back. Because of course they didn't.
Yeah.
I think
he appeared in another video that they did in a sermon later. But anyway,
he said something about the kingdom of God that was, I think, just like bigger than mega churches, and so they're like, well, we can't have that. Like, I think it was something that was antithetical to continuing to be a mega church kind of thing.
Interesting. But
that's not the CR.
So anyway, so actually, it was something from him. He was a huge part of my like whole deconstruction journey. But there was one of his whole like what he called the cross-centered hermeneutic, which is basically it essentially boiled down to
it's a gateway drug.
If there's a part of the Bible where it's like describing God or God's actions in such a way that don't look like Jesus, and specifically Jesus on the cross, like that's where it all centered on. If it doesn't look like Jesus, particularly on the cross, then we can kind of assume that that's an incomplete or inaccurate picture of who God really is. Because he took, I don't remember where it is in the Bible, but basically the idea of like the fullest picture of God that we have is Jesus on the cross. Like that's where it all centers on.
Well, that's the culmination of the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically the idea, okay, well, if there's anything in the Bible that doesn't look like that, then we can assume, okay, that's not quite the full picture, or it's not completely accurate or whatever. So all this, specifically like all the stuff in the Old Testament where God's ordering the Israelites to like genocide and all the people and whatever, and condoning slavery and other things, where okay, they were getting God wrong, basically, or God was kind of condescending to them, and like in the way that like he is, okay, they're not fully where I want them to be yet, so I kind of have to work with them where they're at, which
isn't true. It's a bad explanation.
Yeah. So, but
that's one of his weakest on the time. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the time I thought this was like fucking amazing. I was like, yes, this is it. I finally found like my theology that actually makes sense and I can work with and doesn't make me feel like a horrible person. Which is true. It didn't, but I remember at the time, because at the time, like I was looking up like all the stuff about Greg Boyd, like on YouTube, and like I was watching all his sermons, but I came across this video of a channel that I would later become a huge fan of. And then subsequently not as much of a fan of anymore. This atheist channel by this guy named Doug, the name of his channel is Pine Creek. I don't really know why. I think that's like, I think where he lives is called like Pine Creek, Arizona.
I think there's a Pine Creek place where you can go and they get like the deliverance and shit.
Are you thinking of Bear Creek?
Bear Creek. That's what it is.
Yeah. I'm sure there's probably a Pine Creek as well somewhere. But anyway, I think he just lives in like Pine Creek, Arizona or something. But I don't know why he named his channel that.
Bear Creek. I'm not sure we should talk about it here.
No.
But not bad.
But anyway,
it's like interesting.
Yeah. So this guy, Doug. So I was just searching Greg Boyd on YouTube, and this video came up. And it was one of his videos that he entitled like "Why I'm No Longer a Christian." I guess it was part of a series or whatever he's doing. So he was listening to Greg Boyd like lay out this like cross-centered hermeneutic.
Yeah.
And so Doug brought up the point like, okay, so your point is that like you're focusing on this one thing that the Bible says about the nature of God and how it's revealed in Christ, specifically on the cross. And therefore, any other part of the Bible that doesn't match that is just inaccurate or incorrect or whatever. It's like, okay, but how do you know that if you're going ahead and assuming that some of the Bible is getting it wrong, why are you assuming that the part that says that God looks like Jesus on the cross is getting it right? What if the whole like picture of God that's this genocidal maniac from the Old Testament, that's actually the accurate description, and it's like the whole Jesus stuff got it wrong?
At
the time I was like, no, you're being silly. Of course he's like Jesus, because of course. But
you couldn't ignore it. Like I had a bunch of moments like that where you're like, no, that's dumb. But it's stuck.
Yeah.
You couldn't ignore it.
Yeah, like I said, like I still remember it now. But essentially that is one of the things that became a big issue for me. And this is what I started pressing, like, the more progressive, even like Christians on. It's like, okay, how do you know that that's the part that got it right? and I never got. And basically, what all the answers came down to is like they didn't actually know, but that's just what they chose to believe because to them that sounded better. Okay, yeah, fair enough. That does sound better, but
they're like Brian Zond. Is that the first name Brian, right?
Yeah, Brian Zond.
Mm-hmm. Another guy who was Bruxy.
No,
Bruxy's been in court a lot because he's a bad person.
Yeah,
Bruxy Cavey, look it up.
I was a huge fan of his. That was.
Were you? I never got real into him. Off and on,
I really enjoyed his book, The End of Religion. I thought that was amazing. But
people can say good things that make sense and also be bad people.
No, of course, looking back on it, it doesn't make as much sense and is not quite as good as I thought it was even then.
Right.
But yeah, anyway.
All right. So I think these are people moving the ball on humanity's behalf as far as they can. But then when they get to as far as they can, they're calling that great. You know what I mean? Like that's the answer.
Yeah.
Right. So clear, like definitely, like Greg Boyd, Brian Zahn, Bruxy Cavey. Bruxy he was more of a Canadian influence, I think. But
he was like Toronto or Vancouver, one of those cities. I can't remember.
Toronto, pretty sure.
Yeah. And then there was Dan Moeller. He was another big one.
Yeah, like theologically, like they were on the ball. They had like they knew some shit. So like they moved the ball theologically, which was important. And I understand they moved it as far as they could, and that like they can't not see things differently. But when the guy who likes to say your map is not the territory can't leave his map at the door,
that's Greg Boyd. Yeah.
I still love that quote. It's perfect.
Yeah, we had a great conversation about that with Aaron Tomlinson several weeks ago, a month or so ago. Yeah, go look that up. That was actually one of our most viewed episodes with Aaron.
And that's how you get more out of life. Like, just always assume how you see things, and like your map is not the territory. Like you're not seeing all of it or experiencing all of it. Like what else is there? If that's how you get to God or the answer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think we're going to find out the universe is God, but not like how we thought God was. We anthropomorphize the universe, which should kind of be the most arrogant thing anybody could do ever. You know, like to be like, nah, the universe is me.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where this whole like idea of like, oh, we're made in the image of God. And he's like, yeah, of course God looks like us, because why wouldn't he?
And for the and that was a new concept. Everybody else is like, we got to make the image of God or whatever, and you know, and it's arrogant.
Okay, just think about like, okay, going back to specifically that book, God and Anatomy by Francesca Stavrakopoulos, and like how like she like breaks down like, no, like in the old like views of God, like God, like the God or the gods like had literal bodies, and especially like, oh, remember how like half of like the Hebrew language is a euphemism for genitalia, and it talks about like
it's also part of the religion.
Yeah, like God has a big like all of those things. So it's like, so just think about like how it just strikes me as very humorous. Like this, the notion of like, so first of all, like, so yes, God looks like us. So yeah, God looks like me. Also, God has an enormous penis. So take from that what you will.
All right, this just occurred to me. How like so focused on like sexual things. You know, the root of Christianity and Judaism was.
Yeah.
All right, so circumcision exposes the glands, like the head of the penis, right? Normally, it's in like this like turtle thing, like it's a you know, this extended turtleneck thing. So if you circumcise it, It basically looks like an uncircumcised penis with a permanent boner. Like, it's everybody's like, that must have been the cell. Like, Abraham's like, do you want a permanent boner? And every dude was like, fucking do I? And he's like, well, here's how you do it. And then they did it, and they're like, oh, damn.
So it's basically penises cosplaying as a boner.
Exactly. And then they got institutionalized as somehow like I don't know, maybe God was circumcised. Like, how'd they explain it? How'd they like?
Yeah.
Supposedly it makes sex less fun.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't have a turtleneck myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Anyway. Yep. So anyway. So that whole like, and not just like Greg Boyd's thing in particular, but there's just so many things with me about progressive Christianity. It basically came down to just that realization, like I said, like this is basically what all the fundamentalists had warned us about. It's like, okay, we literally are just like making a God in our own image. Like we're literally just like cherry picking and just choosing what we want to believe and like the parts that we find best. Now, I mean, in a way, it's good. I mean, if someone's going to be cherry picking like the Bible or in parts of their religion, and they're only focusing on the parts that are like more loving and nicer and all those things, okay, good. If you're going to focus on anything, I'm glad those are the parts you're focusing on. But again, remember like where I was coming from at this point, 3 or more years ago, going through having stage 4 cancer, thinking I'm going to die. All of a sudden, I'm completely better now, and I'm not. And now I'm just like rethinking anything, and I'm just like rethinking everything, and like wanting just something solid. I was like, okay, so became sort of I just kind of became a broken record with all these like progressive Christians I was talking to, and like getting their thoughts and just asking all of them, okay, this thing you just said about what you think God is like or whatever, like, okay, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know? Like over and over. And essentially none of them did. Like it was all just like, well, this is what I choose to believe. Well, this like sounds better. Like, well, yeah, it does. But okay, but how do you know that's actually true?
You gotta have faith. That was the answer I got a couple of times.
Yeah. So essentially, like, yeah, I got that all the time too. And like, well, it's a mystery. Isn't it great that it's a mystery? It's like, well, no, it's not. Like,
except when you're like, oh, this mystery is the answer. Well, okay, shouldn't we know the answer to the mystery? No, it's a mystery.
Yeah, which I mean, because I get that, especially if there is a God and it's a sort of like mentor, guru, whatever you want to call it, kind of relationship. Okay, obviously, like, and there is something to be said about the best teachers don't just give you the answers, but they teach you how to, like, they keep a certain level of mystery about things, so it's like kind of like forcing you to find the answers yourself. Okay, I get that.
But they know
that part can be mysterious. But what should not be mysterious?
That's it. That's the difference.
But no, but here's the thing but what the part of it that should not be a mystery is that the teacher even fucking exists. Or like what I actually should believe about them, or what actually should be the goal that I'm striving for through all these mysterious ways and whatever. But yeah, so eventually I just got like fed up with, okay, like at this, like the time of my life where I need something solid, like to grasp onto the most, like more than I ever have than any time in my life.
Yeah.
I'm just getting nothing. So
eventually what it came, get nothing.
What's that?
Maybe it wasn't sinking in, but like you appeared pretty good for a guy getting nothing.
Yeah, well, I think part of it was because as I realized I was getting nothing, but that was also me simultaneously realizing that there was nothing to get anyway. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe that was it. But so anyway, so I said earlier, so tomorrow, October 24th, I kind of consider my Atheversary. I'm making that a word, even if it wasn't before.
I don't even know. I have no idea when mine is.
Well, it's because, here's how I know, because I still have the note in my phone. Because speaking of the small group we were a part of, so this was October 24th of 2021. So this was about a month. So it was September 7th of 2021 is when I officially was in remission from cancer. So October 24th, like I said, we were still in the small group at the time. And our assignment for the week was just spend an hour alone with God. And then
I don't know if I even did that.
Well, I did, and it had totally the opposite effect that I'm sure that everyone was intending for it. So basically, what me spent, I remember it was a Sunday afternoon. I just like sat outside, like it was raining outside. I was sitting in my garage with the door open because I didn't have a good front porch for sitting in the rain at the time, which to me, that's like an absolute key aspect of a good house is a good covered front porch that you can sit on during the rain. But I had a garage to sit in. Good enough. Anyway.
At that point.
Yeah.
The garage always existed. It just always wasn't
and
always
it's still that garage still exists, but I'm not going to go into that. Anyway. So I'm sitting there, it's like enjoying the rain. So I basically, like I said, at this point, I still didn't consider myself atheist, but definitely consider myself not Christian anymore, but I still believed in God and just trying to figure it out. Again, just looking for something to hold on to. So, So the way I basically approached this hour with God was, okay, if God is real and he actually wants me to know he's there and know anything about him, like, all right, that's what I'm going to make this time. I'm just going to start it by saying, okay, God, if you're there, show up. And I'm going to sit here for an hour and just wait for you to show up. I wasn't like necessarily like I ended up expecting something, and I'll get to that in a second. But like going into it, I'm just like open to whatever it means, like for God to show up and convince me he's there, tell me what he wants me to know about him, whatever. I'm just going to use this time to be open, whatever. So I think I went out there. I was still drinking my coffee when I went out there. So just really just sat in a chair, watching it rain and noticing things, just thinking about different things, like thoughts as they came to me and whatever. So like I'm done with my coffee and I'm like, so I just set it down like next to me. And so it like occurred to me like, oh, so maybe it sounds like kind of a cliche, like test for God to like show he's real or whatever. I was like, maybe it'd be cool. Like if God showed me he's real, like if he could like refill my coffee cup here, that'd be something cool. Like, I don't know if he will. I'm not saying if he doesn't, he's definitely not there, but if it does happen, that would obviously, be a cool thing. So I'm sitting there and for a while, and after a while, I actually kind of like forgot that I'd even said that. But I look over my cup and like I notice like, oh, it's empty. Like it still had like a few like grounds in it because I guess the way we brewed it, the coffee got a little groundsy or whatever. I'm just thinking, I might want to like soak that, make sure it doesn't like stain or whatever. So as it was raining, I just like walk over to like the edge of the garage and just kind of hold my cup where like some water was like dripping off like the edge of the gutter or something. I just fill it up with some water, let it soak. Completely forgetting about that whole like, maybe God refill my cup, whatever. So I get through the hour and just nothing other than my own thoughts. And even like the more I thought about things, the whole idea of God just started making even less sense in like so many ways. But then I remembered the challenge I gave God. Like, God, if you're there, refill my coffee cup. But at the end, I'd be like, oh, it is refilled. But who refilled it?
Maybe you're God, Tommy.
I mean, okay. And this is a challenge I actually put out like last week, a couple weeks ago. I don't know. I based on my the Lesser Miracle page that I do. I just put a post out like, prove that I'm not God. No, I'd say no one responded. It's because it's not like I usually get a ton of response on that page anyway, because anymore I really don't.
But nobody can prove it.
Yeah.
And so like any response was going to be funny, like even if they took it seriously.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, I can't. And they're like, but Jesus said he was God. Prove he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He rose from the dead, says your book. I remember that exercise, and I remember that I had what I would have labeled like a spiritual feeling experience, but it was absent God. That was like another one of those moments where I was like, for some reason, I feel like that small group like just couldn't register that I wasn't a Christian anymore for some reason. Like when one of them told me that like him and someone else had talked, and as best they could figure, I was going to be the one, prophetically or whatever, I was going to be the one to lead you back to Christianity. And so I was like, oh, that's something.
Well, you done fucked that up.
And I was like, oh, okay. When he told me that, and I was like, I think I grunted. Like I grunted in acknowledgement. Because I was just kind of like, yeah, that is what you would say right now when this is going on. It's like,
so when was that? Do you remember?
It was an evening when everybody else had left, when we were hanging out at so-and-so's house around the fire in the backyard.
Yeah.
And
do you remember? But do you remember like what time of year this was, or like when this was exactly, or
slightly chilly, maybe fall.
Okay. So this was probably after I had like said to the group, hey, I remember saying to them, like, I'm no longer a Christian.
No, it was definitely after that. Yeah. And like I literally in the same conversation where I was like, I'm just not going to weigh in on this because it's like, one, I think I had 3 beers at the time. And so like after 3 beers, I lose count of everything. So
including beers.
I'm pretty sure before that I had said that like I labeled myself, or maybe when I was working at their house. I don't know, but it was after you made your announcement. And I said, like, I think if I had to put a label on where I am right now, I would say I'm a Christian atheist. I was like, that's actually a theological thing. And I think that's where I am. For some reason, he only heard the word Christian, and ignored the other part. Like they thought they knew better than me or something. They're like, no, you're not. And
oh yeah, like because I remember like when
he's like, and they were like, I was gonna be the person like who led you back to Jesus, and I'm like, I'm not interested in going back myself.
Oh, yeah, because I remember that because it actually was like this was obviously towards the end of the group, but when I remember actually saying to the group, like, I think I'm actually atheist. But like one of the guys actually told me in a way, and I asked him about it later, and he's kind of confirmed, but almost like in a way, like he thought he was trying to reassure me. He's like, no, I think you're just agnostic.
Yeah. You're like, no,
and I'm like
that's a,
and I'm like, no. Yeah.
But why do you think agnosticism is like Christianity light? Like,
or maybe he just thought it was better. I don't know.
Because you're almost a Christian. It's also an adjective for a kind of atheism. So
yeah, and as some people would say, depending on how you define agnostic, obviously, but I think it was our buddy Jimmy Ligon, like, and other people I'm sure have said, he's like, if everyone was truly honest, like we're all essentially agnostic because like
About
no one
something.
actually knows.
Yeah.
Specifically about the existence of God. It's like if we're honest, like no one actually knows
Right.
whether or not
your experience could tell you that's true, but that you don't know it's true. And I think it's a healthy thing to acknowledge that. Like,
but it also depends.
I care less if somebody stays a Christian if they're like, yeah, I don't. This is the answer that works best for me, and instead of like, I know this is the answer. Like that's not healthy. When you're like, I know this is the answer, and it is beyond your understanding. Like that's not healthy.
Yeah, and this like is a whole other issue. I think I definitely want to do another episode on this, but the idea of because this is a place like I've tried to be that whole like, well, I don't care what you believe as long as you're just like not hurting yourself or not hurting other people. But I'm struggling to.
You didn't do that very well for very long.
Yeah. Oh, and I make no, pretensions or whatever.
And no apologies either.
Yeah, because I'm struggling to find a version of Christianity that is actually benign or doesn't have any harmful aspects to it. But that's a whole other.
There isn't, because it all involves people. So there's always going to be something that ends up being a problem.
Because like
there are some versions better than others, like Saint Francis of Assisi, animal lover, very Taoist actually. Thomas Merton, another good one.
Yeah, but the whole thing with like Saint Francis, like he took that whole like vow of poverty and like chastity and stuff. I'm like, it's okay to have money and like fuck every now and then.
But
like you don't have to go that far.
Right? No, I agree. Like as like something you're forced or you feel like you have to adhere to, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. But I think he did it because he was being him.
Well, no, our view count just went up when I started talking about fucking. So
I don't know, keywords, I guess.
Sorry. Anyway, but but like I said, that's a whole.
I think it's beautiful when people are being themselves, no matter what their religion is. I'm on board with like all of that. I will hang out with those people as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's why I say like, and this is something I've said before. Like with all the things I said, like whether I want to or not, I don't know if I really. When it really comes down to it, have the power to actually talk someone out of what they believe.
No, how would you?
It's like the way I look at it is like if anything I say causes someone to no longer believe, it's like, is it really me or is it just themselves like considering something that they hadn't before? So that's another reason like I like to put my thoughts out there is like, because like you said, like, okay, if this is what gets you through, if this is what works for you, okay. But I guess my message is okay. But you don't have to. That's really all I want to get across to people is you don't have to.
Seeds are made to germinate, and so if you say something that like causes a doubt or a seed in someone's mind to germinate, like you're just helping what was supposed to grow. And I think that's to the couple of times I was talking to the guys in the prayer group where I was like trying to get past the intake interview, which is so fucking some bullshit. That it's a thing. Anyway, both times one of the two guys got really mad at me, like out of character mad. And all I was really doing was like, I just want to believe what's true kind of thing. Super pissed, like comically pissed. It was really unpleasant for me at the time, but looking back, it's really funny. And just, I think it was because they were pissed at me that I was like fertilizing a seed in them that they had been trying to bury. It's like, no, this is, and for my part, one, I'm kind of iconoclastic where I just want to break established things to make them better. But
yeah,
it's like, no, I will set you free, fucker. Like, if you're already thinking this, think that shit.
yeah.
Like, think it as far as it goes for you. And if it ends where you're still a Christian, cool. But like, its actual end point is like, from my perspective, beyond that. I'm gonna help you get there because I got there and I think it's better. And it would be I would be remiss to like leave you behind from my perspective.
All right. So I have like a revised analogy.
Okay.
That like just dropped like in my brain right now.
Oh my goodness. Hot off the presses.
So like before I would use the analogy, it was like, okay, picture your faith as like a dog or pet or whatever that's in your house. And all I'm doing is like by like raising these questions or my issues, like I'm just like opening a door here or opening a window here. So, but if like the dog jumps out, I'm like, okay, well, it's okay. You can blame me for opening the window, but if the dog jumped out, like he wanted to leave, kind of thing. But I prefer the image of like an actual building, like with people. Let's say it's a church, you know, and the people in the church, like running it, they have their people inside, and they've just locked all the doors.
So it's like fire hazard,
like right, or like that's like don't question anything. You're safe in here. Like you don't want to get out. The way I put it is like all I'm doing is I'm going around and like unlocking and opening all these doors. And if your church or your religion, your faith, your version of Christianity, whatever it is really as good as you say it is, these people are going to want to stay inside. But if all I'm doing is just opening these doors and that causes people to leave, whose fault is that really?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this to like puff myself up as just so like I'm the one setting people free. It's like, I mean, there's so many other people like me. Like anything I say, like for the most part, like I come up with some original thoughts on my own, maybe, but it's at least even those are at least influenced by other things that I've learned from other people. So it's so that's why I say, like that's why I do what I do, like in this regard, is because like I know from my end it was so helpful for me when other people did this. So I just assumed, okay, like I said, on top of the more selfish reasons of just, the catharsis and, the venting and like just expressing my thoughts, but because I probably would second guess it more if I wasn't hearing so much from other people telling me how much, like specifically what I am saying is helping them. And the way I view it, like for the people who, if they dislike me for just essentially, if they dislike me for being honest, then they don't actually like me anyway. So I don't give a fuck.
That's messed up also. Like you're saying,
because
and that was also the thing that I kind of felt was to bring it back to me, to
bring it back to you. I'm getting another beer.
To get mad, I think that's why I got the response from a couple guys who apparently one of them I know is not usually like that, and the other one I was told is not usually like that. Saying things out loud that somebody has heard in their own head that they're trying to ignore. And I'm not going to help you hide you from you. And I'm going to work the other direction. But the people see that as not hiding them from them. It's more, they see it as like rescuing them from the enemy.
Right.
It's really
or showing them, or showing them who the true them is, which is really Jesus, not you. But yeah.
But it's really fucked up to equate part of yourself with the enemy, because you can't get away from that enemy. It's a kind of like induced dissociation. So, it's like some of this like religious trauma that like people have, that I have, is from you just. It's like some of it is kind of an institutionalized dissociation from aspects of yourself that are labeled bad. And like every time, like somebody would say, "Oh, something I've been wrestling with for a long time." Now I'm like, "Oh, that's probably you." Like,
right?
you're like, I can't seem to get rid of it or whatever. I like,
yeah, no
somebody
shit.
was like, I still like dudes, and I can't get rid of it. I can't shake it. And now I'm like, maybe it's because you like dudes.
Yeah, or for in my case, like something I've been like honest about and open about is like something that like had been prayed over, either like just by myself or like by other people, and had cast off of me like I don't know how many times. But
Get off of me.
Like get off me. The flames. Sorry.
On the side of my
Clue
face.
references. Oh, Madeline Kahn, we miss you. Anyway,
she was cute.
But yeah, something that like so for all these years, like I said, this things that like I had people praying over me and casting off of me, like looking at porn. It's like, why couldn't I not stop? It's like, oh, because it's a thing I just like to do.
Yeah. Did you know Alan Watts? For people who don't know,
no, I try to be like health. That I realize there are actually like healthy ways to do it, and I try to not turn into a problem, but just the whole like it's a natural thing. It's a thing I enjoy, so it happens, and I don't. And I realized like it's like what makes it so part of the thing that makes it so much healthier is like I just don't make a big deal out of it. It just kind of is what it is. Like it's not a compulsion. It's not like an addiction. It's like it's just whenever I feel like okay, but like that's it. It's yeah.
So I read earlier tonight that I did not know this. Alan Watts, who's kind of like a Western Taoist amalgamation, did a lot of like spoken word kind of teaching stuff. Very insightful to the human condition, I think, and a lot of things where I was just kind of like, oh my god, that makes sense of reality. Also, I highly recommend getting high and listening to Alan Watts talk, because like fucking portals open. Anyway, found out today that he was a big time alcoholic and a chain smoker. And somebody was critiquing him on the Christian Mysticism Facebook page, which is kind of a hodgepodge of fundamentalists, weirdly. Like, they're the most vocal ones. Like, this is the Christians. They don't have me talk forever about things and about why you're wrong. And so they do that. But this guy was well spoken, so I read it, and he's like,
no.
Alan Watts is he when he died in his 50s, Alan Watts drank a bottle of vodka a day, and they just say chain smoked. Apparently, it was beyond measure. there was no number for it. And having myself listened to a lot of his recordings on YouTube, I think he would say he would have quit if he wanted to, and he didn't want to. And addiction doesn't end until you want it to end. So some people are like, oh, he just negates everything he said because he was a charlatan and he was kind of hedonizing all this Taoism stuff. Or just being a human stuff. And no, I think he knew he didn't really want to quit. And so he's like, I can enjoy my life, like knowing that I don't want to quit, and just do that instead, or I can beat myself up for the rest of my life And so I think he just said, no, if I really want to stop, I'll stop, and I'll wait until it happens. It wasn't. Also, weirdly, the person in this argument made the argument that maybe it's good if people drink or do drugs if they want to. It's like, sure, the world wouldn't have developed to the point it is, in the human world, because people would have strived less. It's like, but we also would have made less of an impact on. And
if everyone was drunk, we wouldn't care. So,
right. It's like,
I'll drink to
sure,
that.
less people would have lived for longer, but is that better?
Yeah, because here's the thing. I don't know who needs to hear this, except it's everybody probably. But as much as we may like human flourishing, human flourishing is not the point of the universe.
Or the point of the earth. We're just a part of how it does its thing.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, weird,
yeah,
dude. Are we kind of the male and female, right? Or just like
what?
who and whatever, who and whoever. Like, that's just kind of the universe fucking itself.
Yeah. But even just the concept of anything fucking anything is just a complete us construct anyway. So
yeah, what even is that?
Yeah. Speaking of what even is that, I'm just gonna, if it's all right with you, Matt. I mean, we may still have some things to talk about, but what do you think of going and putting the link out to I see we have at least somebody watching.
Do it
if they're interested in joining us.
Join us, won't you? Rainbows.
Yeah, so I put a link in the chat. You see it on Facebook and YouTube, wherever you're watching. If you want to join in the chat, maybe tell us if you're no longer a Christian, what was your tipping point? What was the thing that kind of pushed you over the edge? What was your thought process?
Or where are you now?
Yeah, if you're still a Christian, what's something you're curious about? Or if you're still in that kind of in-between phase, or wherever you are, if you want to tell us about where you're at and why you're there. Whether joining us in person, virtually in person, or just in the chat if you want to type a little something. Either way.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. For some reason, I've seen we still have viewers, but actual engagement for whatever reason, recently has gone down. But
yeah, I think putting out some shorts might help with engagement. I think we're a little long. Our podcast is long-winded. I'm not blaming us. It's more this is what needs to happen for us to get things out. And so there's things that are probably little gems that I want to clip out in some shorts. But we can't get there without the hours. Got to put in the time.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. This takes effort, and you're literally getting to see how the sausage is made. That's basically what the show is.
Inside of the sausage.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see that. That sounds terrible. It sounds just like a maze of meat chunks.
So, but here's the thing. I remember these kind of things people post and they go viral. Someone posted a while ago a video about how hot dogs are really made, and but the whole point of it is this should disgust you, and
it's what part of the animal is this color? It's made of that.
Yeah. No, but then I watched the video, and my honest reaction after watching the video is man, I could really go for a hot dog right now.
Even the really factory things, even. Have you seen videos of the hot dogs shooting out of the wrapping machine?
Yeah, that's what this video was. I watched one of those videos.
See that I was fine. Okay, I was fine except for the term meat slurry. That's the official name for it, and I'm it's meat that looks like icing and mixing thing, but then. But to put it over the top, just watching the hot dogs just fire and like rocket out of the wrapping machine. It's just like that is just shitting out hot dogs. That's what did it for me. I was
but it's like I don't care. I'm just it's like I guess. But
after watching that, I'm like, no, all beef hot dogs for me. Is it that somehow better? But like it drove me to higher quality hot dogs.
no, but like that's what I preferred growing up. But like anymore, it's like I mean, now at my age, like I did realize years ago, like at any point, like having more than one is usually not a good idea.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
The ballpark onions. Have you been to a game and used like the worm screw to like worm screw out diced onions onto your hot dog?
No.
I don't know if they still have it, but the last time I was there and put onions on my hot dog, there was like a hopper with onions in it, right? And then there's this crank, and you put it was like a soap dispenser kind of contraption. So you put your
I
hot
have
dog,
not seen this.
You put your hot dog under there, and you crank it, right? And there's a worm gear in there that like spirals out diced onions onto your hot dog.
Where is this?
It was at the ballpark. Yeah, it was at Great American.
Oh, at the Red Stadium?
Yeah.
Oh, I have not seen that. Oh.
It was probably unhygienic, and I'm sure they've trashed it since. It felt weird. It was this like stainless steel hopper with diced onions in it, and I'm like, has it been in there since at least the start of the game? And it's not cool out here. Like it's hot.
Or maybe like the start of like several series ago. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like some young kimchi going on in here.
Classy. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah. So bringing it back to like my whole like, because part of it, I just enjoy being able to say I became an atheist during a prayer exercise.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah. But yeah, like just that whole
I became whatever while trying to find God.
Yeah. Now I remember a text that you sent me saying, "So are we atheists now?" Now, but unfortunately, I don't remember what it was in response to, or like where that actually came from. Because my response was basically, "I think so?" ?
We were probably quipping about Greg Boyd or something similar, where we're like, "Fuck that noise! Wait."
Wait, but that was the only noise that was left. There's no other noise.
It's like it was like a Wile E. Coyote moment. We're like, did we just step off the cliff?
No, because I kind of remember like back for me, like what kind of put me, like I said, there was this definitely a time period like where I said like, okay, I don't consider myself a Christian anymore, but it's like, but I'm not quite an atheist, but I guess for some reason I just felt uncomfortable. Like I was still like maybe unsure what the term atheist really meant, whether it was like any sort of definitive claim or it was like the whole like lack of belief thing. But I remember, I think it was specifically Aaron Ra. There's this guy on YouTube. He's an atheist.
I'll put you over the top.
Yeah. I think it was really him. Like, I don't remember like what video it was or like what, but I just remember him talking about the idea of like, okay, really all it is to be an atheist is like, okay, if you just don't say to yourself, I believe that there's a God or gods at all. Like, he's like, that's really all it is. It's like,
yeah,
like you don't have to be making some like grand declaration about anything. It's just really as simple as, I mean, the way I like to put it is like, if you answer the question, do you believe in a God or gods with anything other than yes, then I think you can call yourself an atheist if you want.
Well, yes, But then I think there could also be a follow-up question, like, what do you mean? Because
yeah, well, I think maybe the way I put it, like just implied in that is whatever you mean personally by a god or gods. Yeah.
I think what
obviously, like you ask like anybody what they mean by god or gods, you're going to get all kinds of different answers. But but for me, that's actually part of the reason why I even like consider myself a strong atheist at this point. Like, basically meaning I'm willing and comfortable to say there is no god or gods, and part of that is because like I have yet to be given any semblance of any definitive definition of what a god even is. So I'm like, okay, at what point do I have to keep playing this game of, well, I don't want to say, or I don't want to come off too strong? Like, if no one's able to actually give me a definition, and even if one does exist, if they are just incapable of proving themselves to me, like, how long do I have to keep holding out and like being diplomatic? Like, well, I don't want to say, like, it's like I just got tired of like, so basically I'm just like, if I'm comfortable saying that there are no leprechauns, if I'm comfortable saying there's no tooth fairy, if I'm comfortable saying there's no Bigfoot, if I'm comfortable saying there's no Loch Ness monster, I should be comfortable saying there's no God, because I have the same lack of evidence for all of them.
Yeah.
Or at least definitive proof type evidence for all of them. Yeah.
I hear you, and I don't disagree.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like I got to ask, like, what do you mean? Because like, I think there's a non-zero chance that we could be talking to something or someone when we pray, and something or someone is listening, but it might also not be God.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, I think at the very least, our concept of God is too small. And if it goes bigger, it's not God anymore, as we understand it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, but to me, like, I even have like issues with like trying to even like define the word God. Like it, like even just that term has just become so nebulous. Where to me, it's like it's almost become meaningless. Like, because like you can say the word God, but there is no like definitive thing you can point to. Like if I say beer, like, okay, yeah, there's lots of different types of beers, but essentially, like, you know what I'm talking about. If I say microphone, you know what I'm talking about. You know, if I say apple,
right,
you know what I'm talking about. But like you say God, it's like, who knows? You know, so I'm like, yeah, I just if you can't point to like for me, like it's not so much like I'm denying God or the existence of God because like there's a specific picture that I'm saying, okay, that's not real. Even okay, in certain cases, I can say, okay, I don't believe in Krishna or Vishnu or the Christian God or whatever. But it's like, in a way, at the same time as I'm saying I don't believe there is a God, I'm also just like waiting for someone to give me something to deny. So at some point, I'm like, okay, if no one's giving me a definitive thing to deny, then it's like I'm denying it, but at the same time, you're not even giving me anything to deny. So, like, what am I supposed to do? You know?
God, that's so weird. I know I use God as an exclamation, but whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing. People say, well, atheists still say, "Oh my God." It's like, yes, I often say, "Oh my God" when I find something unbelievable.
But that's something I've been noticing about it. So, like, being more on the left now politically, and like looking at people on the right, where I used to be, reacting to things, and like you said, they're not giving you an answer. They're not giving you a picture of God to refute, basically, and or you know, you have a picture, but like everybody's picture is a little bit different, and so you're like, how do you refute the thing completely? There isn't anything to actually refute. It's so nebulous, and I see that happening in things that like that the right politically will accuse the left of doing. Very often, it's things they're doing themselves, and the left may not actually be doing those things. There's a lot of projection that happens, and it's just interesting to watch somebody not see what's happening,
right?
And to accuse somebody else of doing what they're doing, or the lack of what they're doing, or whatever, and
speaking of like Trump and politics, I'm like
people have for that.
Like, I apologize. I want to acknowledge this comment we received.
Excellent.
Yeah. So Trump is winning, so the Christians won't have to vote anymore. Now, I want to think you're saying that sarcastically because, like, yeah, as a sort of like, that's apparently what he said, and we covered that like several episodes ago.
I mean, also that sounds a bit sinister. Like that could mean a lot of things. Is he going to exterminate Christians? Like, you know what I mean? Or is it like
that could go a lot of ways.
There won't be voting again, or like he's the new Moses / Jesus. I don't know.
But the way I view God is almost like, I guess the way I view God is almost like the way you could view like Trump's healthcare plan. It's like, it's not that I'm refuting Trump's healthcare plan. It's like he hasn't given me a healthcare plan to refute. So
he's like, but he'll have one in 2 weeks.
It's like, we have a concept of a plan. It's like, yeah.
Oh, there's so much stuff he's saying where it's like, I'm like, I should look around and be like, are you not seeing this? He's being cagey because he has a brilliant plan. It's like, no, but what he said was this. This is what you're saying is the story you're putting around that.
Right. Yeah. But back to the whole like positive atheism thing. Like, so another thing, and this is probably one of the things that ultimately like pushed me over the edge to just being comfortable with saying, okay, I'm fine with myself saying there is no God. Because the reason, and again, this is a place I was at for a while, was just like, well, you can't prove that there isn't a God. So saying definitively that there isn't, like, you have no grounds for that. But all the theists who told me this will themselves admit, well, I can't prove that there's a God. Of course I can't prove it because God's beyond proof and blah, 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 whatever. Okay, so if a believer can say that there is a God even though they can't prove it, then I should be able to say that there isn't even though I can't prove it. Right?
Sorry. Say it again. I was distracted.
Sorry. Yeah. So if a theist can say, oh, I'm saying there is a God, but of course I can't prove it because God's beyond proof and blah, blah, blah. Like, so if someone can say they believe in God, even though they can't, if someone, not to say believe, but if they can make the definitive statement, God is real, but I can't prove it, then I have every right to say, like, just as much of a right to say that there is no God, even though I can't prove it. Like, I'm on equal footing with them. Like, neither of us can prove it. So why can they say their definitive claim, but I can't? I'm just like, I just came to the point, like, that's bullshit.
Because their book, though.
Essentially. But their book, it can't even agree with itself. So where does that leave us?
No, but it can, Tommy, because of this list here. It's like, but what about the source material? What is... There's a lot of...
Here, tell me about the source material. I need to pee. I'll be right back.
There's a lot of just pulling from like a portion of the information. It's happening a lot. Like, and just all kinds of different like categories of information people are exposed to, where you present a portion of the information and then tell somebody that like this backs up your opinion based on this portion of the information. But if you look at all of the information, it often will prove that person wrong, because if you just have this narrow focus it's one part of the facts. It'll tell you the one thing. And maybe that's that, like, Trump is awesome and you should vote for him because he's amazing. And if you look at all the information, it's like maybe he's just kind of an old guy, maybe probably syphilitic, and he's a puppet of everybody who knows how to float his boat just right. It's like, and then when you look at all the information, that looks like it's almost definitely true. And you hear him talk, and you hear him talk about Arnold Palmer's dick for half an hour, and how much, yeah, it was all man. It's like, okay, tell me you want to fuck Arnold Palmer without telling me you want to fuck Arnold Palmer. How is this the real world? Kind of everything, not just politics, but like religion, the aliens things, global warming, and we're just like, hey, I don't know, keep burning things that make it worse because we can't stop it. To make it worse, fucker. Just like,
I was
all this
so
real?
Yeah, I was laughing so much off camera there, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So,
North Korea is fighting in Ukraine, or just outside Ukraine to keep it shifty. It's like, why is North Korea fighting anybody? They can't do shit. Their army paves roads, like, and they're in a fucking East European country fighting a war. Like, oh my god, this is such a bad TV show. It's something that
this
people,
season's whatever
like the
this
show
is.
Jericho, where there was an EMP detonated over the country, and like it was a post-apocalyptic, but like just like right now kind of thing. Canceled. Show was canceled after like a season and a half. Didn't even make it through a second season. Or, I don't know. Maybe only been one season. But it was one of those things where like, no, this is too far-fetched. But the thing is, it's too real. We're going through this stuff that like feels too far-fetched. But then you examine it and you're like, no, this is just what happens next. Like, this makes sense with how it happened before.
Yeah.
Like, let's all get on board with how fucked up everything was that we didn't know it was.
Yay. Yeah. Sorry, I was a little distracted there. I just got an email that didn't have any actual information, and it was more like, hey, this like test you recently got, like your doctor has the results now. I'm like,
fun.
tell me what they are. But yeah, it's like I'm sure it's fine. It's one of those, like, when I go in to see my oncologist periodically, they do this test. It's like colloquially referred to as a liquid biopsy. It's basically they like a special blood test to see if there's any traces of cancer in my blood. But like after like the full like body scans, like everything's looking clear. It's like, but to me, it's like, oh, good. Somebody has the results now. We're expecting them to be totally fine. But yeah, sorry.
No,
that kind of stuff always like completely like takes over my brain when I see like anything about it. So
no, that makes sense. The only thing I was about to say next was that I think that's what produced Generation Alpha, is that the reason why it seems like they are living a completely different reality is because I think they're living actual reality, and we're all faced with, because they seem to think that the world has no incentives and nothing makes sense. and so they're like acting accordingly, and
I mean,
they're more connected than anybody else ever, so at least as far as we know.
Right? Yeah.
They may have the clearest picture of reality, and we're just a bunch of old folks like aging out. And like I told somebody that I think that like our age group in our 40s. Are you in your 40s yet? Yeah, you are.
Yeah. I'm 41. Yeah. Which I still feel bad that for your 45th birthday I did not get you a Colt 45.
Well, we can remedy that.
Because I did for your 40th. I got you a 40. I don't remember what it was, but
I don't either.
I just remember your reaction, like you thought it was funny, but you're just like, no, seriously, what am I going to do with this? And you're like, this is terrible. I don't want to drink. I don't want to actually drink all of this. What am
I'm sure I did, though. There's no man left behind. Man down.
Right.
No, but I told somebody recently, this is my therapist, actually.
I need one of those.
From like, our generation is going to be, so our kids, like Generation Alpha and Zoomer, like they're going to be trying to save, like they're going to be trying to save the world with artificial intelligence, and we're going to be like, artificial intelligence is scary. Stop. Because I already see it happening. Because there's people on the left who are like kind of like on the progressive cutting edge of things, and they're already like, AI is bad for workers, and I'm just like, oh my God, you're old.
Well, it's one of those things. Like it depends, like how you use it. Like it can be like
right, but just like blanketly bad for workers. That's where it's kind of like old man screaming at clouds territory.
Yeah, and these clouds scream back. But they like, so for instance, like the whole thing with like, well, AI can like do like their homework or like write essays or whatever for them. Like, okay, well, maybe instead of fighting that, maybe we should go, okay, let's figure out how to do education by using AI to do these things for us and like adapting to that. Okay, this is a thing that can happen now. Now, what should education look like? Now, I'm not pretending to know what that is, or I'm certainly not saying that's going to be like an easy fix or whatever, but I'm saying like
teaching doesn't look the same at all.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when we were in school and they told us like, well, you're not always going to have a calculator with you. It's like, well, yeah, we do. We literally do always have a calculator with us now. It's like,
and that's what I was like. Every kid in the class was like, but I literally have a calculator, and these are not hard to buy, and so like it's feasible. I could always have one nearby. Like, it's...
right. Yeah, or
already knew it was bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, because like, I mean, for everyone who like will look at just a specific aspect of technology and say, "Oh, we're just going to become too dependent on that," it's like, I don't know how to break it to you. Like, we're already completely dependent on things that like 200 years ago, like were not ubiquitous. Like,
yeah, we're completely dependent on toilets.
Yeah, or like, just or electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
like until man camp, I didn't know how to bury my scat.
Right? Yeah, like I don't know how to like grow food. Like I don't know how to make clothes.
And growing food is nearly idiot proof. You just grow what grows in your area, and it's like not hard. But
yeah, I mean, and so that's what they always say, like eat the things that are like native to your local area. So like I live in Cincinnati, so I eat sausage and I drink beer. It's perfect. But yeah, that's one of the things that got me like, so like during the pandemic and like when everyone was at home and like, we're all just like watching YouTube and everyone's doing their all like homesteading thing, like all those like channels on YouTube like started taking off, like all that's one thing that I started noticing, like all these people like talking about like being like all like off the grid and like self-sufficient and like, so it's like, oh yeah, well, like we grow our own food, like we literally built our own house and like we like make all our own clothes and like okay, well, how are you off the grid and like having this electricity to like film these videos and show like, oh, here's our new like solar panel array. Oh, and you made those yourself?
Yeah.
I'm like no, like,
and it's cool if somebody wants to do that, but like let's be real, you didn't. It's not all you.
Like literally, like I don't think it's like, unless you are like, okay, let me put it this way. if you're on YouTube, you are not completely self-sufficient. Like that's just how it is.
Most people
Like,
aren't.
you are.
Like, we're kind of designed to work together.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like I said, like now, if someone like I said, it depends on like how you frame it and what's the actual goal you're working for, like, and how you label it. Like, but yeah, if someone wants to, like, has the land and wants to grow all their own food, yeah, that's awesome. If they want to make all their own clothes, yeah, sure. They want to build their own house, yeah. But this whole idea, if what they're after is just being completely self-sufficient, this is all me, and it's like, I'm like, first of all, like, why? Like, what's wrong with depending on other people for things?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're a social species. That's kind of what we do. That's how we have been so successful. But I don't know. That's completely off topic, but so yes, I guess anything else related to what was the actual topic? Do we have actual topics anymore, or is it just me having a pipe dream and
it's more like an
eating
anchor.
something
More like an anchor for a boat that bobs about randomly.
Yeah. I guess there needs to be something that lets us know it's time to finally stop at some point, but yeah.
My vape is not vaping, Tommy.
Well, that's not my fault.
It just won't charge. It's a weak ass. It's a weak ass bullshit.
Well,
I don't something small.
If God was really a loving God, your vape would still work right now. That's all I got.
That's what I think.
So. Man.
Let's go even more off topic. I've been really enjoying people trolling MAGA people in public.
Yeah.
I just found a guy like
Robbie.
Robbie.
Say that's a guilty pleasure, but it's not even a guilty pleasure. It's just a pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, I found a new guy. I think it's like Robbie Roadrunner or something like that. He's like this guy who talks in a Hulk Hogan voice, and he wears a hat with deer antlers on it. They're like plush deer antlers made out of felt and shit. And so at the start of every video, it is kind of like like, oh, this is really awkward and stupid. And then the brilliance happens. Like, it starts to make sense. Like, he's wearing...
I love that point.
He's wearing leopard print hot pants, right? And a woman's thong sticking out over the top. And kind of like a shorter than should be, a kind of like gray fleece thing that looks like wool. And he's wearing like the old Oakleys, the old like 80s, 90s Oakleys that wrap around.
Mm-hmm.
And a kind of like the ear flap hat with like the deer antlers on it. And for some reason,
that's a fucking vibe right there.
Yeah, and for some reason, like Buddhist prayer beads around his neck. Like, his appearance is meant to troll as much as possible. Because like when he's starting to approach, he has a bullhorn too. And when he's approaching like these little like protest rally things, the people aren't sure if he's one of them or not. And so he plays like karaoke music on his bullhorn, and so the song like "Baby Don't Hurt Me," he's like walking around going, MAGA don't hurt me. MAGA don't hurt me no more. He always has a bottle of baby oil with him. He's like, hey, you want to put some baby oil on me? And so he finds the one guy who seems the most homophobic and he just like puts baby oil on his arm. He goes, oh yeah, brother. And in front of old ladies, he gets down and like bobs, showing off his thong in the back. And so The MAGA don't hurt me was good. Another one was I like to take it in the MAGA hole. And so they're like, you're terrible singing about taking it in your ass. And he's like, I like to take it in the MAGA hole. And they're the ones saying he takes it in the ass.
Oh,
and it's so good. This one guy called him a faggot. This one lady calls the cops. She's like, he's showing his penis. It's like, no, he's literally just in tight pants. Like, he's showing his ass and his penis. And he's fully clothed. And just, he like gets people to like, be ridiculous. He's like, let's go storm the CVS. He goes to cause an insurrection at the CVS. We love insurrections, don't we?
all right. You're hurting my face. No. Ow. Like my face is like literally like just in pain right now.
So that's just fun. And then the other guy I gave you links to, I forget his name right now. But they both do the same thing where like there's a protest happening and they go protest with the people. The one guy protests and he says the subtext out loud, like it's an anti-abortion like prayer rally thing. And so he like is like on his bullhorn, like going, "We hate women." And they're like, "You don't belong here." And he's like, "Freedom of expression. I'm just here doing the same kind of thing you're doing." Or they just keep up the facade. They're like, "No, I'm here because I hate women, just like you." Save the babies, kill the women. Like,
right.
It's so cathartic to watch somebody doing something I want to do. But I had an idea. I kind of really want to go to a MAGA rally. Wearing truck nuts. And just kind of riff on whatever they're saying or doing. And just the whole time, just kind of swing the truck nuts around. Just make sure I'm always moving in a way that swings them. And just to be like, they're so inappropriate. It's so inappropriate. And I'm like, literally a thing you people put on trucks. But suddenly we put it on a person and oh my gosh, it's like his real nuts. Like and just, it made me do some lunges like, while I talk to people.
Obviously.
Yeah. And here, this just came to me. I'm thinking maybe a wig that could be a merkin. Like, you know what a merkin is?
No, what?
And a pubic hair toupee that people wear in movies sometimes.
Oh.
So just something that's like really curly. Like, so like a really curly wig where it's like, it could be a bunch of pubes. Just so like people are kind of like, truck nuts, pube wig.
All right. Well, let me know when this mood next strikes you. And, I'll probably join.
What if we show up wearing something like totally ridiculous and offensive to that group, but we don't do the counter chanting, like the passersby? We just look like part of that group and just ruin the vibe.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Like you have American flag and you just like butt floss with it. like you're trying to like shoe shine your taint.
Or like literally just holding out and just like humping it. It's like they're like, what are you doing? Like, what? You don't love America? Like, I love America more than you. It's like
you just lift your balls with it. Just like
Oh, man.
Like, you're disrespecting the flag. It's not touching the ground. And I dare you to find this in the flag regulations.
Yeah, it's like, oh, what? You're not sexually attracted to the flag? What's wrong with you?
Also, there's a lot of people on the like the fundamentalist, like constitutionalist side of things, where they're like wear shit that like looks like the American flag, and that's literally against the rules. Or draping it on your shoulders, but like there's nothing in there about like rubbing it, polishing your junk with it, like.
Yeah. I mean, come on. If you haven't like jizzed on an American flag, do you really love America?
Yeah, I don't know.
Come on.
I think not.
Come on, literally.
I think you've been aiming low.
So this is on topic.
It kind of seems like the powers that be do kind of use the American flag and the American people like a jizz sock.
For real, yeah.
Like we're just the minions that keep the machine going. We're not in charge of anything.
Yeah.
They let us vote now and then, but like the two parties really end up having policies very similar to each other. Like, when's the last time Democrats or Republicans did something super different? Well, I kind of take that back. The Dobbs decision was very different. So things have gotten wacky recently. But now we've got like a Democratic candidate who's kind of like Republican light.
Yeah. Well, I say like maybe where like Democrats and Republicans like have their biggest split is over domestic policy, but like foreign policy is just like especially like if you go in the Middle East, like can you tell the difference between like Democrat or Republican bombs?
Nope. Makes me want to vote Green Party. Just say fuck everything.
Yeah. Anyway.
But even on domestic policies, like what they actually deliver on, it's like what they say they're going to do is different. What they actually deliver on is pretty similar.
Yeah, you can make that argument for sure. But
not different enough to call them opposites. That's all I'm saying. Like,
Yeah. You can see that. Yeah. All right. Well, so I have no idea how to wrap this up.
Me neither. I think we only have a bot watching us still. So,
yeah.
If you're not a bot, like Billy D. White guy, whoever that was, I forget his real name. That's just what my brain kicked out. I thought he was a bot for sure, and he wasn't. So
I want to say Winston. Is that
Wesley Curry the second? That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
He was a lot to handle. I would enjoy another conversation with him.
Yeah,
but he was a lot to handle.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him show up on other streams.
Yeah, apparently he it seems like that's all he does. He's kind of well known.
Yeah, so I guess like I'm honored that he showed up here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But
as far as
person's name who I cannot pronounce because it's literally special characters.
Yeah, it's like a mixture of like Asian and Greek and German and
yeah. So what that may mean is that if this is a real person, that may mean that's a foreign language, and I don't have that plugin to make that make sense.
Yeah.
Like it's special characters, and Google's just like, whatever the fuck that is. I don't.
Yeah. But yeah, appreciate you for being here. But But yeah, any like other final thoughts on the
No.
topic of like yeah, I think we pretty much covered like what, at least at the time, kind of like pushed us on the edge. Like obviously, like since then, like things have evolved. Like it's it like you said, like sometimes you consider yourself atheist, sometimes not. Like what do you think of yourself now? Like would you use that term or?
I don't know. I still stick with I just want to believe what's true. And so that's why I'm really into learning about the non-human intelligence and the UAP stuff, because it's like it's something that seems to have legs, that is beyond us, and has some overlap with spiritual stuff, which I find really interesting. And so I just kind of want to chase whatever's bigger than me and try to understand it. And so I fit the category of atheist, but I don't like what that automatically puts in a lot of people's heads. And like, I'm as sure as I can be that the God as I understood God before, and as most people understand God, isn't real. But something like God might exist. And so that's kind of where I am.
Yeah.
Or something we interpreted as God might exist.
Yeah. Yeah, basically where I'm at, like I'm still, like I said, very comfortable with like the term atheist, because at least like as I understand, the term God or gods or whatever, I'm basically like, until either like the God or gods themselves or anyone can prove, show, demonstrate, whatever standard you want to put to it, that they actually exist, I just don't believe they're there.
Yeah, so I think the persons that we interpreted as gods might start to show themselves soon.
Yeah.
Which would be something.
Yeah, because basically, like I said, like if there is a God or gods out there, like obviously, like if they were to like show themselves and convince me that they were real, like sure, I would believe it. But
yeah, no problem.
But it's like at this point, like if that still hasn't happened, it's like I said before, like how long do I have to keep like holding out?
That's a really weird thing about atheists, is because I think most atheists would be like, sure, if God is real and like as you've described him, all the goodness and all that, sure, I'd be on board with that if it's real. Like I don't have a big hang up. I'm not refusing to believe. It's just I don't currently have reason to. And Christians can't say the same thing in the other direction. It's a weird thing that like atheists are more open-minded than Christians in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, because a lot of atheists were formerly Christian, so or from some other religion, whether it was like Islam, whatever. But
I've never heard of somebody who was a Christian, became an atheist, and then went back to being a Christian. I like people who like started to deconstruct, and then they like decided to like double down on Christianity, but they didn't. They were never an atheist.
Yeah. So like I said, like if there is a God, and because that's the other thing, like people say, well, it depends what you mean by God. It's like I mean, I think it's safe to assume, like, if you're going to call something a god, like, it's got to be pretty powerful. Like, on some level, like, at least to the point of, like, you would assume anyway, letting you know that it exists, at least. So if there is a god, who cares whether or not I know they exist? Then they're going to make it happen. So from my standpoint is there either are no gods, or there are no gods who give a shit whether or not I believe that they exist. And to me, it's like, either way,
we're hung up on the wrong stuff.
Yeah. It's like, not my problem. Like, if they do exist, but they don't care if I know if they exist, then they just might as well not exist. I mean,
it makes more sense to work with whatever God or not God has given you to work with.
Yeah,
that seems like the most honest thing to do.
Yeah, because that's essentially what it came down to. Is like, I just got to the point where I'm just like, I'm not going to dedicate my life to something that I can't even tell for certain whether or not it's even there.
Yeah, I think if we're all honest with ourselves, that's something we would want someone to do.
Right? Yeah, so all I can do is go with what I can tell is real and what I actually am convinced of. So, and that's like, I'm convinced of me, I'm convinced of you, and like other people in my life, and like other things I can perceive like with my own senses. And I'm not saying, and that's not me saying, well, what I can perceive is all there is. It's like, it's really just what I perceive is all I really care about. Because if I can't perceive it, then I can't really do anything about it anyway. So who gives a fuck? So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
I think the only thing that any of us can really be sure of is that we exist. And that doesn't mean we can, like, I don't know if I can be sure that other people exist, like, really.
Right.
Kind of take that on faith.
Yeah, the way I put it is like, as sure as I can be about anything, whatever it means. It's like I can be sure that you exist. I can be sure that these beers that I've been enjoying exist. My house, my kids, trees, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's what I got to go with. So if someone wants to believe in things beyond what we can perceive, okay. I mean, like I said, I can't prove that those things aren't there, but it's just when they get to the point of trying to convince me that I'm ridiculous for not believing in these things that they can't prove to me,
or offended that you don't.
Yeah. Or that they feel the right to judge me in any way for not believing in these things.
It's a weird thing when somebody else's lack of faith hurts your faith. What is that?
Yeah. It's almost like this is all completely like from people anyway. Weird. Anyway.
Well, how does that mechanic even work? Like, somebody else's lack of faith hurts your faith. How does it? The only way that makes sense is if we're all the same person. Ultimately.
Or if it's just like you actually are so insecure in your own faith that, well, I mean that's really what it is, like, because your faith only comes from what other people tell you. So as long as the other people around you believe these things, and that makes it secure. But if there's someone else who doesn't, and you're like, oh, then that puts that thought in your head, is this actually not real?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can't deal with that, the whole like cognitive dissonance thing, and yeah.
I just realized I kind of wonder if the person watching is Owen.
Hey, Owen.
Because he's been trying to, like, get away with stuff. Kind of like a magician likes to get away with stuff.
Yeah.
Like he figured out a way to fool me into thinking he was taking his melatonin at night, which is how his brain calms down and like allows him to go to sleep. Otherwise, he's just awake forever thinking about anything.
Yeah, I could take it too. Yeah.
And so he was doing something where he was like dropping it next to his side and sitting on it, like, and pretending to take it or something for a while. And yeah, it was kind of impressive because I thought I watched him take it the whole time. And
so he just like Mandela affected you.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of proud of it. I'm kind of irritated.
Oh yeah, I feel that.
You're like, oh, good for you. I didn't even know that was happening. Also, don't do that.
Yeah. But anyway, so
we should wrap up because I need to get said boy into bed.
Yeah. But thanks for watching, if that's you. Yeah, but that's I mean, again, one of the reasons that like I really enjoy doing the show is because like I kind of hope at least someday like my kids see this. And I've talked to them about that. Like, I mean, they don't watch it yet, and like I think, yeah, there's probably some of our content that's not appropriate for people,
right?
But
yeah, like there's larger context that's needed pretty often.
But obviously, I mean, I talk to them about the show and stuff, and like so they know it exists, like they know it's on YouTube and on Facebook and stuff, but they haven't watched any of it yet. But I told them like, yeah, I actually told them like, I hope someday, like you do, just get to know me more or whatever. But yeah, so even if like no one else ever watched this, but like eventually like my kids see this someday, like for me, like that's enough.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess in closing, like, I don't know, like, could you say like in a term or phrase or word or whatever, like where you are at right now as far as like atheist, agnostic, spiritual, like is there any word or phrase or description you could or want to put on where you're at?
No, I feel like all of them fall short in some way. Agnostic might be the closest, but that's like an overgeneralization because I do think there are things that can be known. But I also know that like we don't know what we don't know, and so there's some involuntary agnosticism baked in. I feel like I'm a subcategory of atheist that is kind of solidifying in culture and in science. Because there's a lot of, I have an app I use for like mental health, a couple of them. The main app is Fabulous, and then there's like other like spin-off apps for like add-on stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that is being found out in like psychology and mental health kind of research that has a spiritual flavor to it. But the reason why it's being used in like therapy and stuff is because there's like all kinds of evidence that this kind of viewpoint works and helps. So that there's like a kind of spirituality that's based on science and like mental health that's developing and solidifying. The impact it has on people is a spiritual kind of impact, but it's based in science. So it's kind of like when religion switched over to science, and like instead of using stories to explain things, we're like, oh, let's actually measure things and figure out how it is. And so like the scientific method was kind of like a replacement for religion, to kind of like, and originally to kind of like meet, kind of like try to get to the same place that religion was trying to get to, and somehow it became like an enemy. And now I think the scientific method is bearing fruit that kind of has a spiritual impact on people, and so whatever that is, I'm in that camp. Where I'm like, if all we have to describe our experience of getting better is like spiritual language from the past, we're like, we know that's not real. It's just like this language is like the best thing I have to convey it to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like we're like realizing that's what that was, and so yeah, spiritual atheist. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if I were to like describe where I'm at succinctly, it would basically just be atheist until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
So
there is growing evidence that what people considered like demons was a particular kind of telepathic non-human intelligence, and the angels were another kind.
Yeah, okay, just to amend my statement. I don't know if like proven otherwise or at least convinced otherwise. Because they're like proving like that can be like messy territory, but yeah, atheist until convinced otherwise. That's where I'm at. Yeah.
I'm hearing more and more stories from people who have experienced things in like the UAP YouTube circuit, and not just like yahoos, but like government people and from particular like research branches of defense intelligence and all that kind of stuff. This is nuts, but like it seems like the non-human intelligence seems to be a combination, like a variety of already present on Earth since we don't know when, interdimensional, from other planets or planetoids, and like something kind of like angels. Like it seems to be like a variety, and Earth is kind of like a zoo that they all tend to, like the ones that are actually like we would consider good. And there's like this race of like probably aliens that kind of look like dragon faces, and like they're what people would consider demonic, but they're really just being them. It's just like compared to like our way of life that's demonic. So there's like a lot of stuff that seems to be real that is overlapped with like old stuff that we just didn't know how to describe it. And I know that sounds really out there, but having been in like the mash prayer tent thing and like reading people and stuff, and a lot of people are convinced that they have experienced a similar reality, and it's not an established religion or something, but, you know, that like they're having this shared experience and shared explanation. So there's at least some truth to it. Just wacky as fuck. Like
a bit, yeah. All right, well,
yeah, we should.
We're starting to we're starting to lose me. So, but anyway, but yeah, this was good. So, yeah, so for anyone who like follows me on Facebook, just like fair warning, like tomorrow, like I said, tomorrow is my Atheversary. So if you're not a fan of my posts that are like particularly critical of like religion or Christianity or God or whatever, tomorrow might not be the day to pay attention to what I'm posting. Or if you're into that, then look forward to something. But also tomorrow I'll be. I plan on being guest on our buddy Jimmy Liggins' show, Unreligious.
Oh, cool. What time?
We'll be talking. It's at 7 Eastern, 6 Central.
Okay.
So an hour, basically 1 hour earlier than our show. I think he plans on talking deconstruction.
Nice.
I'll
try to be in the chat.
Well, cool. Yeah, look forward to it. But speaking of like guests and being on shows and stuff, next week we're finally having another guest on our show. It feels like it's been a while. We're having the one and only Bishop B. Jamel Broadnax. Really cool guy. I was on his show. Man, I think this was even like before we even started ours. Probably like almost a year ago now. But yeah, really cool guy. Someone who, again, for being like a show of a couple atheists, like it seemed like majority of our guests are not atheists, and I think like he definitely does not consider himself in that camp, but like like us, so like former Christian. I think we'll be talking about things like how being like brought up in the faith and just being told from a very early age, like this is what you believe, like how kind of like harmful that actually is to a person, like to their like intellectual autonomy, like to try to figure out what they actually believe, being like given beliefs instead of being allowed to figure it out for yourself. And like how like in the church, it's almost like that's like a fear reaction. Like, well, if we let them figure out their own stuff, they're not going to agree with us. It's like, well, that should tell you something. But anyway,
if you have to teach it into somebody, it's not there for real.
Yeah. So anyway, really looking forward to our conversation with him next week. And then the following week, again, like not on our normal time, but on Tuesday, which used to be our normal time back when we planned this thing. But yeah, election night, stay tuned. Like we'll be at least streaming it to the Humanity Facebook page, probably YouTube. But like with all the guests, we still got to figure out like whose pages are we streaming this to, and then what all like. But yeah, once we have more specifics, we'll definitely put that out for people so they can know where to catch it and everything. But yeah, looking forward to like election night, like hang out with our good buddies, Derek Day, Aaron Tomlinson, Jimmy Ligon, plus whoever else, like I said, whoever else wants to show up. That'll be a good cathartic time. And then we'll probably be back that following Wednesday as well, unless it's like a point where like, maybe we need a break. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. That's true. It'll be like the next day, won't it?
Yeah, it will. And I mean, there may be a lot to talk about, or maybe we'll just be like, "There's too much to talk about." I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
We'll get where we're going, no matter what route we take.
Exactly. And also, huge thanks to all the people who joined us this evening and who will be joining us later. And like I said, always, whether you're watching us live or on a replay, feel free to like leave your comments or like send either of us like private messages, whatever, however you want to reach out, or literally if just watching and not interacting is good enough for you, that's good enough for us too. So we appreciate you in whatever form and whatever level of interaction you're willing to do. So yeah. Remembering to breathe. That was a lot of words. Okay. All right. Well, anything else, Matt, before we go quietly into that good night?
No, just the usual. May your things and stuff be forever with your people.
Indeed. Yerp and amen. All right. Well, see you next week with our buddy Jamel. Hope you have a good week, everybody. Good night.
Good night.